Welcome on the AM show this beautiful Friday morning. And of course, we're here to do what we do best. Yesterday, we had showers of blessings, but in some cases, well, guess what? It was pretty problematic. In fact, when the clouds started gathering late in the evening, I knew that things were going to happen. And the calls I got, in fact, where I am, what I saw made me realize that the disaster was looming. But thankfully, it wasn't that bad. This morning, one of the things we're going to be asking you is what happened in your community. But as we kickstart the AM show, I'll be serving you the news shortly. And then right after that, our own assisting editor, my own brother from another mother, Samuel Kojo-Priest, joins us for the newspaper review. And then we quickly get into the big stories for the day after Prime Take, of course, in sports. And we'll bring you all the latest. We've got Prime Take, like I mentioned, and it's another conversation with Joseph King Kong Akakpo. And then when we get to the big stories, we'll be talking, first of all, about parts of the country experiencing torrential rains yesterday. Now, we'll be hosting the Ghana Meteorological Agency on what more we can expect. The rains have started, but what is going to be the sequence? What can we expect in the coming days, weeks? We'll be looking at that. We'll also check the extent of damage caused by the rains. And if you left late from work yesterday, how did you get home? Was there flooding in your area? On my route today, as you can imagine, there was flooding even on the streets. About 3 stretches were flooded and cars had to meander. You know what that does to traffic. We'll also be telling you about the new HCEO Summit, which comes up tomorrow, Saturday. Look forward to that one. Later on the show as well, we'd allow you to have your say by sharing with us what your thoughts are on social media and via the phone lines. But today, look out for my blunt thoughts. I'm going to be talking about hypocrisy in dealing with Galamsey. I'm going to be talking about terrorism in terms of our environment, and I'll be going to talk about con artists when it comes to our economy. All of that on the chopping board this morning on the AM show. So just stay with us and let's serve you. We'll be right back. Welcome to the News Belt on the AM show. And we start from the Member of Parliament for Wa Central, Dr. Rashid Pelpuo, who says his side of the House will push for a probe into allegations made by former Environment Minister, Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng. He says the minority is worried about government's stance that it is winning the fight against illegal mining. The ranking member on Parliament's Lands and Forestry Committee has been addressing a news conference in Wa, from where Rafiq Salam now reports.
The press conference by Ranking Member for Parliamentary Committee on Lands and Forestry, a Member of Parliament for Wa Central Constituency, Dr. Rashid Pelpuo, is in response to the interministerial report on illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey, by former Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Professor Frimpong-Boateng. He noted that the report by the renowned surgeon established the worst fears of the Akufo-Addo government's fight against pervasive illegal mining in Ghana as a hoax. He registered the displeasure of the minority caucus in Parliament.
We have come to a painful conclusion that the government is fully stripped of all semblance of a serious and determined government entrusted in securing our environment for a future generation. The tragedy of the people of Ghana is that while the people retain complete confidence in government to protect the lands and waters from the destructive activities of Galamsey or illegal mining, the government has clothed itself in the fraudulent conduct and practicing the illegality itself by this alleged involvement. As the minority group in Parliament, we wish to register our utmost disgust and revulsion in government and its involvement in the operations of illegal mining and the illogical denial of the indefensible facts.
Dr. Pelpo averred that the report was released 2 years ago and wondered why the government has delayed in meting out the requisite punishment to all those names who are part of the government and penciled in the report.
It is our considered view that if the government were committed and serious, some practical measures should have been taken to address the very serious issues pointing at its own involvement, despite any challenges in the method of presentation of the report. Indeed, we expected that some individuals should have resigned by now from government, and further investigations should have been conducted, and the people of Ghana assured that they are walking, the government is walking the talk.
He called on civil society organizations to take keen interest in the matter.
It is the worst we've ever had, in which the watchman has become the thief himself. It has become truly difficult to call on the same suspect to set up any investigative body to look more deeply into this matter and closely to ensure that we get to the roots of it.
The ranking member for Parliamentary Committee for Lands and Forestry concluded by disclosing the intention of the Minority Caucus in Parliament whilst urging the government to institute an inquiry into the issue.
Now, the Chibihene, Osaberima Mafo Kwabrane, is demanding the presence of former chair of the Interministerial Committee, Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng in Chibi, to show them the exact spot where illegal mining took place that resulted in the destruction of the garden of President Akufo-Addo's private residence in his hometown of Chibi. According to the chief, the allegation is unfounded and an embarrassment to the Achim state. Osaberima Kwabrane says they will not rest until finality is brought to the issue.
Bia eni no crepe pefe bia eni sabe ye wo fa ase no wa ye adwuma wa di politics almost 45 years ni on fa ne hu nkototo se ne manema ono kro ba akra na ye se adwuma no kra on pese ono obekasa nti menyi ni se obi a wa bone bra as a citizen lawyer There's no
truth to what they are saying. My nephew has been in politics for 45 years now, and he won't get involved in such an act. I would like Professor Frimpong-Boateng to show us the exact spot where the illegal mining took place. Probably, we have no idea where it is. We have been living in this house for a very long time now, and there's nothing like that going on here.
No starting now. Baby, I would do no be 2 Galamsey. Baby, I would do no be 2 Galamsey. Me and me no boy me. Me and me no boy me. It me cramming 2 Galamsey no 2 Galamsey. Me and me be him cramming 2 Galamsey no President aku 2 Galamsey. Anywho something. As if ya. So say
I am the king here in Chebi, and I don't approve of illegal mining. Not to talk of the president.
Nipa na model. Na say would we need to form Among Bibra Baba, and yes, I'm more fascinating than American Union. And Yamayano, who shape TV so real baby now, if you ring with liar, why, Adiakusi. Here, Adia, more friends, or Borehole to a straw. Some go for the politics, and they are say, I, as you saw Bianca was him. As to that time, it's in corridor. Go for Kamwasema, Omuntimin. The
president has done a lot for the country.
Yes, when you be
we should talk about his achievements instead of tarnishing his image.
No about Ghana, no ability. Afe, Adi Galamsey no motivation. Galamsey, and no ben. It's from what Madaroma, Moko Munku invite and say president office, Omra, no matchden, Babia, Utu Galam, Ebiani and Yenino, Menino Sosundia by Yun, Tomra, no matchremi, Sahanu 2 years.
We humbly invite Professor Frimpong-Boateng to come and locate the exact spot where the illegal mining is being done.
No, me who said Mampany Fia, a Kufa too good, and then a Kufa be too good. Oh, Mampany Fia. Niankre tea cruma crow be too good. Who buy a teto, who be too good.
Now, in our next story, pupils in some basic schools in Accra have bemoaned the poor nature of food served under the school feeding program. The students raised the concerns during JoyNews' checks over the declaration of a nationwide strike by caterers on the school feeding program. James Kwesi Aveji has more in this report.
We've been to two public schools in Accra, and what we have picked up is that all two schools, the caterers in all two schools have reported to work. In fact, and where we are right now, we may not be able to identify the school because the officials that we have been speaking with would want it to remain so for the fear of victimization, what they call victimization, since they have decided to defy the odds of the national directive. But they explained to me that the reason why they have decided to defy the odds is for the interest of the students. The indication we have is that they have reported to school and they are feeding the kids. As you can see, the school we are right now is serving the children banku with okra soup actually. And so that's what they are feeding the kids. In the other school we went, they would not allow us to take any form of interaction or visuals from what is happening, but the assurance they gave us is that the caterers are actually at work and feeding the children. We can interact with some of the children to know what they feel, whether they actually know the caterers are not supposed to be at work at all, and they are what they feel about this food dish that they have been.
Please, yes.
You have heard that they are supposed to be on strike.
Yes.
But are they on strike?
No.
Why?
Please, because the food that the caterers are cooking for us is not good at all. They don't bring for us yam and koto breast, no meat, no anything, no egg. And the bonku too, sometimes the soup is water. They are not cooking it well. The beans and the rest of the food too are not good at all. They should cook for us yam and cotton breast.
The beans, they like bringing beans, and the beans too is like water. There's no oil on top, there's no plantain, and the rice too, the stew is too like water. There is no some kinds of things in the stew, so I like it to be comfortable so that I can eat it, and I don't eat it always because of how they cook it.
So today, what were you given?
I did not eat the food.
Why?
Because I've buy food and I've eaten. And because of how they do the food, I can't eat it.
But you know what they were supposed to eat today?
Yes.
What were they supposed to eat?
Today they ate banku. They don't bring jollof always. It's once a while. And the banku too, the soup is once a while that is thick. Always is too like water.
So what do they put on it? Is it fish or meat?
Nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So today's own too had nothing on it.
Yeah.
It will affect me by not eating because my mom doesn't give me enough money to come to school. So by all means I have to eat the caterer's food. So to really affect me.
So if you don't, your mom doesn't give you money, would that mean that you will not come to school at all, or you come and go hungry?
I'll come, but you know, some of my friends, if I ask them, they give me, so I can come and go.
So you just heard the bellboy ringing for break over as the students are entreated to go back to their classroom after being served with the school feeding food. So that's the situation here in some of the schools that we have been visiting around Accra on today, as the caterers, school feeding caterers nationwide, have declared a strike beginning today, Thursday, the 27th of April 2023, until their demands from government are met. For JoyNews, my name is James Kwesi Aveji.
Let's head to the Ashanti region now, and Love News' visit to some schools reveals some caterers under the school feeding program have resumed work Now, pupils in the State Experimental and Eyija cluster of schools are among schools where students were served lunch this week. There is more on that in this report.
I think it's 1 out of thousands because looking at Ashanti region, we are 600 or more. And if you see one person or two people cooking, it means that it's 1 out of 1,000. And I also believe that those people, they have advantage over the poor women because they know how to get their money, and that is why they are comfortable doing it. Otherwise, I don't see why they should cook.
Have you been able to confront these women, and what was their reaction? What did they tell you?
Yes, personally, I asked one woman, and she told me she can't wait to... she's having some stuff there, like she has some beans and then some rice over there, and she wouldn't want to throw them away just because we are on strike, so she would rather cook for the children, and that is why she's cooking. Oh no, a lot of them, majority, about 98%, they are poor. Those who can be on their feet and cook, they are about 2% out of the 1,000, and so we believe that there is something going on. Otherwise, I don't see why you will cook at this time. You don't know how much they are going to pay you. If you cook this time, it means that we are going back to the third term, the 3 terms. Because we have last year third term 1, we've cooked the first term, and now this is the second term, making the 3 terms. So are we now going by 3 terms before one term is paid? No. And I don't think those women really understand what is going on. So we can't force them. Oh, but you went around. You said you saw 2 people. And so if you have a whole Ashanti region and only 2 people are cooking, then it's not significant. It's not significant at all. And we thank God that. But we are pleading with our leaders that they should give these poor women a listening ear, because they are bitter. They are in pain. I know that teachers go on strike and they give them a listening ear. Why are they refusing to give these poor women a listening ear? I believe elections are coming and they will still need these poor women to go down there and do those donkey work. And I'm afraid.
So for the 4 weeks that you've withdrawn your services, you've not been invited to any quarters to listen to what you have?
Nobody. Only threatening. If you don't cook, we'll take the screw. If you don't cook, we will deduct it. And these are kind of words that we hear from them. But what pains me most is that those who are doing that, they are old people. They've enjoyed their life. And now they want to provoke the younger one and then go away. And I don't think they love even MPP. If they want MPP to be in power again, they will never treat these poor women this way. Because they are going to also treat them bad coming this election. They say it. And that is why some of us are voicing out for them to hear.
Now, the effective implementation of the Sustainable Mobility Project in Kumasi is expected to help control the rapid urbanization and population growth of the city. Ghana's second most populous city is faced with severe traffic congestion and road safety issues due to the over-reliance on low-capacity passenger vehicles and poor road systems. Local authorities in Kumasi are hoping the Urban Mobility Project will solve this challenge. There is more in this report.
Kumasi's population is about 3.7 million, and a majority of the people can be found in the city center. Similarly, Kumasi's vehicle population stood as close to 207,000 as of 2015 and is increasing rapidly. The increased human vehicle population ratio and mobility demand requires rapid motorization. The streets of Kumasi are characterized by inadequate traffic management, heavy dependency on public transportation services, inadequate walking and cycling facilities, and the encroachment of roads by hawkers. The Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, developed for the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, recommends the implementation of solutions to mitigate mobility issues in the city. The plan suggested an improvement in road infrastructure, including dualization of roads and improvements in transportation systems. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah said there are plans to develop high-capacity transport buses and massive road expansions in Greater Kumasi.
When you go to the central business district area, you have very heavy vehicular congestion and then human congestion. In order to solve this problem, we are having a project which is being financed by AFD, African Development Bank, and is going to open up the various routes such that we increase the number of public vehicles, but not owned by the private sector. Most of the public vehicles we have are small capacity vehicles. For instance, if you take the trotro, the maximum that they can take is about 20 people. Meanwhile, if we have a bus that can take about 60 people, that means that if you bring one large capacity bus, it's taking off about 3 vehicles off the road and minimizing the number of vehicles you have on the road at a particular time. But because before you can do this, it will also mean that you need some development on the route itself. You may have to create parking lots at the side of the roads where these long buses or big buses can park.
Head of the Transportation Engineering Division at the Building and Road Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Williams Aka, believes the mobility plan will influence an effective plan to tackle transport needs.
There are 16 municipal metropolitan district assemblies involved in the expanded Kumasi area, and the idea is to come up with a livable city, a city where people will be able to travel freely, a city where there won't be so much emissions from mobility.
Mahmoud Dean, project officer for the French Agency for Development, noted the enforcement of the plan would require inclusiveness.
Yes, I think that the enforcement is mainly not the best situation when it comes to implement the transport project. But the key, I think the most important thing is to have a very inclusive approach to get all the assemblies involved. That's why we have targeted expanded Kumasi, not only Kumasi, because the issue of transport is not only in Kumasi, but we have other assemblies involved in that issue.
The Sustainable Mobility Project is financed by the African Development Bank. Reporting for JoyNews, Clinton Yeboah.
In our final story, today, many international organizations use access to safe drinking water and safely managed sanitation facilities as a measure of progress against poverty, disease, and death. Taking these into consideration, a young politician in the Bolgatanga East constituency of the Upper East region is constructing boreholes for communities there as a way of contributing his quota to the development of the area and to help him get closer to his people. Correspondent Albert Sori has more.
Dry, sunny, and drab. This is the month of April in the Upper East region when the rains have not yet arrived. Access to water becomes critical at this time of the year. But here in the Dubila community in the Bolgatanga East district, hundreds of people did not have access to clean drinking water until just now. They often had to travel long distances to other communities to get access to the nearest borehole.
The time there was no water, we always go far away. The river, we always fetch. It was very far, and then the challenge is that when we come far away from our house, the time we get to the house, we all become tired. The old women too cannot go there. We, those who also have children, cannot go and fetch the water because of our children.
When we are not having a borehole, we suffer a lot. We go to dams and fetch water. We go to far places and fetch the water. Children will get up early to bath and go to school. Because of there is no borehole, they will go. If they return, by the time that they are returning home to bath and go, they will be late to school.
With the very hot weather in this part of the country at this time of the year, these would have been difficult times for the community members of Dubila. But help has finally arrived with the Silas Amwa Foundation constructing a new borehole for the community. Matthew Silas Amwa started this foundation.
Water, I think, is one of the major problems in our constituencies, because some people just don't have access to water. I think growing up in this community, or probably growing up in other communities, I see how people struggle to get water. So if we are capable, why not? Why do we allow our mothers, our sisters to walk such long distances to fetch water from dams? It's not right if we know we are in a situation to, give them good water to drink.
The chiefs, elders and people of Dubila were full of joy when the borehole was commissioned. Matthew Silas Amwa, through his foundation, has also extended the gesture to the Zuarungu Dabori and Dulugu communities, as well as the Gambibgo Primary School, constructing boreholes for them to help improve their access to clean drinking water.
The land of the school is lying on a rocky table. So they have tried several times to get water for the school. Water never came. They would dig and hit a rock. So the students, when there is a break, you see them loitering around, some going to houses to drink water. So it affects classes. So that problem has been solved.
Matthew Silas Amwa recently declared his intention to contest in the new Patriotic Party's parliamentary primaries in the Bolgatanga East constituency when nominations are opened, with the hope of eventually representing his people in parliament. This has generated some criticism for him, with some people in the constituency accusing him of doing the philanthropic work only because he is looking for political favor. Amwa, however, downplays these criticisms, saying that he is helping the people only because he is now in the position to do so, and irrespective of whether or not he gets the nod to lead them politically, he still would have done some good for the people of Bolgatanga East.
If I'm even going to contest, I don't know if they are even going to vote for me to be whatever. If I don't win, am I coming to pick this pipe away from here? No. I have helped paid kids' school fees. So if I don't get a chance to lead, would I go back to institutions and say, give me my money? I see it as developments. You can't actually want to lead something when you are not development oriented.
He says he will continue to use the Silas Amwa Foundation to do charity work to help improve the lives of people within his home constituency and other parts of Ghana, whether he is in politics or not. For Joy News, Albert Sorry, Dubila, Bolgatanga East District.
It's a wrap for the news, but stay with us. Up next, I am joined by my colleague Samuel Kojo-Brace as we get into the latest from the newspapers. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to get into the newspapers, and I have a wonderful buddy. I always call him my brother from another mother, and today is very special. I'll be telling you at the tail end why today is so special. But Samuel Kojo-Brace joins the conversation. Yep. How do you say Mr. and Bra in your language, in Ahanta?
Manumai.
Melumai.
Manumai is like brother.
Over me Oluma.
No, Manumai.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. Melumai.
Manumai, yes.
Okay.
Manumai means brother.
And how do you say young man? Or
Kokrobenya. Kwakura Benya.
It's interesting. I mean, how our languages and all of, there are some things we can't render, like things that are in English some things we had to construct. For example, gas. Ejamframa. if it's Chi. I don't know about some other languages, Fango, and among others. You know, we had to find something. But there are terms too that are they are so rich in our local languages. And it's unfortunate that languages like Ahanta are getting extinct. But I love your verve and the way you are holding the language. You together with what's his name? Justice Baidu. All of them. Among some other. The Ahanta caucus. Wait, so Joseph Akakpo is not part of the caucus. His is Nzima.
Nzima, yes.
Right.
But in Nzima and Ahanta, we are, you say dialect of the same language. I think that's what you say.
I think it's kind of like the Spanish-Portuguese relationship.
Okay. So
pretty similar, but the construction is slightly different. The grammar is slightly different.
So it's the Nzima...
Or maybe Chi Fanti.
Okay. So the Nzima, Brosa, and Ahanta, these languages are... Or dialect, you say, is that right? Like dialects of the same language, right?
I guess so.
So these three are very similar. When a Brosa person speaks, I can pick a lot of the things that he or she is saying.
Okay.
But I cannot speak same. And I assume that same with them, that when we speak, they can pick some of the things, but they can't speak like we do. But when it comes to Nzima, as for Nzima, I'll pick everything, but I won't be able to. Yeah.
You understand everything, but you can't speak. That is true. It happens. It happens. And but can an Nzima understand you when you speak?
I should think so, because for all the people we've interacted with, I think they also do capture our language, but they can't speak it like we do.
Yeah.
But we have similarities in some of the terms or some of the words.
Is it like the ga and then the dangme?
And the dangme, yes.
It's a shade of, it's practically the same, but it's not exactly the same.
Yes. I think so. I think it's better the ga and a dangme comparison, sort of. So like someone will say, is it kome? Kome is like hunger. And I think the Nzima person also say, I think they also have the same. It's interesting.
And of course, in P would say ekom.
Ekom.
Com, if you come to me.
Come to me, and then the Fanti would say ekom, right? The Fanti rather says ekom.
I'm not too sure on that one.
Interesting. But anyway. I think that I have to say kudos. You say kudos to my Ahanta people out there who are trying to really identify themselves as Ahantas and speaking their language. It's good. We should carry on. For our chiefs, and sometimes it's shocking that some of our chiefs will speak in public and will rather choose Fanti or speak English. That is disheartening. To see a leader of your people and who understands that our language is dying, rather choose to speak Fanti when he is addressing his people. He's speaking in a Hantaland and speaking Fanti or English. I think that's quite disheartening. So we'll urge them to rather do the right things to ensure that we are able to safeguard our language. We can. It is dying. It is not dead, which means that we can save it. So let us all speak it. Speak it to your children. Speak it to yourselves. Wherever you meet your fellow person, speak the language. That's how we can save the Hanta language. Else, we'll be here in the next 2 decades or 3, and then we'll say, well, what language is that? It's no longer around. So let's work at it.
We have the chance to work at it. Well, before we get into the news review, of course, there's also that one. Is it Nzima and Sifi?
Yes, like that's what I said. Sifi, the language is Brosa.
Oh, that's the Brosa.
Yeah, Brosa language. Yes. So it's Brosa and Nzima and Ahanta.
So they are like triplets.
Yes.
Linguistic triplets or dialectical triplets.
Yeah.
So you can easily weave.
So if I go to the Sifi area and you might want to say things that you think I don't, I may pretend, but I'm grasping whatever you're saying.
Right.
And when it comes to action, maybe I'll take the action.
You take the action. You know, languages are beautiful. When I was at the University of Ghana, of course, you had to take a course from the African Studies Department. And I took Dagbani, okay? And I aced it. I actually studied the thing. The only 2 things I still remember, though, just guess, wild guess.
Something has to do with food.
You're such a smart brother. Wait, are you saying? So I only remember I am hungry and I am thirsty. Gom malma, kum malma.
Oh.
Gom malma.
Gom malma. Is I'm hungry.
I think one of them is hunger, one of them is thirst. It's a bit, but those are the only ones I remember. If you speak Dagbani this morning, you can just send me into the show and show me something small. Kumalma. And that's it. That's it. At least those I couldn't forget because eating and drinking, dear.
Yeah, you won't forget.
No. Anyway, this segment is brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Here in Accra, you can find them at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard in Takrade Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Kumasi, Kronum Abwehia behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's also Techiman Hanswa and Esiama and Zema. Call them on 0244-867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Just before we get into the papers, someone was saying the other day, Nzema, is it Esiama? It's Esiama.
Yeah,
right?
Esiama.
Esiama. All right. So we have a number of papers. Today is a bit of a barren morning.
I believe that it is.
I said it in the person. In fact, one of our colleagues here was like, no, wait for Kojo Brace to come and pronounce it. I was like, I don't think it's Esiama. All Esiama be Esiama.
Esiama. Or the person wanted to say Esiama.
Isiama.
Maybe the person.
But usually, even linguistically, this is a double S.
Yeah.
It would. I don't know how it would take a Z.
But you know how corrupt some of our
you have a
towns
point.
have become
You have a point.
because of her.
You have a
so
point.
yeah, but it's fine.
Anyway, we have a few papers this morning. I don't know whether the rains prevented some papers from coming out because today we don't have the Daily Graphic, we don't have the Ghanaian Times newspaper, but we have a number of them. The Finder, Weekend, Crusading Guide, the Ghanaian Publisher. What do you have?
Well, the Daily Guide, the Daily Statesman, and the Daily Analyst.
All right, as usual, let's start with you.
Okay, so from the Daily Guide newspaper, 50 students get BOST scholarship. Bawumia knocks NDC with data on 2 million jobs. NDC Chairman Meda Asake to hang Afoko for retrial. Okay, so we'll get into those details. Nana chases Al Jazeera over false report. Now let me deal with the NDC, the former MPP Chairman's Meda. Now, the question on whether or not trial by jury has outlived its usefulness in Ghana's criminal justice system once again came to the fore yesterday when a 7-member jury by a 4-3 majority decision found Gregory Afoko not guilty of conspiring to murder the late Upper East Regional Chairman of the MPP, Adams Mahama, but unanimously found his co-accused, Asake Alangdi, guilty of the same offense.
Yeah.
The jury, however...
And not just that. Go ahead.
The jury, however, by 4-3 majority, found the 2 accused persons not guilty of the substantive charge of murder, thereby resulting in a hanged jury and a retrial by a different jury. While Afoko is to be retried as a result of a hanged jury, Asake Alangdi was sentenced to death by hanging after he was convicted by the court based on the jury's guilty verdict on the charge of conspiracy to commit murder. The Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Godfrey Debo Adame, is among a host of people calling for the scrapping of the age-old trial system and hinted his intent to sponsor a bill to abolish it. Gregory Afoko and Asake Alangdi were before the court on 2 counts of conspiracy to commit commit crime and murder for allegedly pouring acid on Adams Mahama in May 2015, leading to him suffering severe bodily burns and died the next day while on admission at the Bolgatanga Municipal Hospital. The 2 pleaded not guilty to the 2 charges, and the prosecution led by Marina Apia Pare, a chief state attorney, called 16 witnesses to prove its case. And the accused persons also opened their defense and told their side of the story after the court held that the prosecution had made a prima facie case against them.
What is your reaction to the story, really?
No, it's confusing.
It is,
Yeah.
Sometimes the law is confusing. Sometimes the law isn't what ordinary folk, so to speak, who are not learned in the law, expect it to be, because the law is the law. There's for example, if something doesn't exist as a crime, you can't punish. You may see it morally and whatever to be wrong, but once it does not exist in a law book as a crime, someone will get away with it. But I'm just saying, that's just an example.
But how can...
Tell me why you
How can the
feel-
same jury find Asake guilty of, what did they say? A conspiracy to commit murder. That's what they found him guilty on, right? So conspiracy means he conspired with someone, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they found him guilty of that particular charge. Conspiracy to commit murder. But on Gregory Afoko, they didn't find him guilty. How?
You would have to speak to the judges on that.
But these are duties of their peers, right? So like me, I don't know anything about the law, but I'll go and sit in the court and listen to their case.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, cast my vote whether I find him guilty listening to the story they told, right? Now, 7-member jury unanimously find one of us guilty of the same charge, but one not guilty. So who did he conspire with? That's the question, isn't it?
He obviously didn't conspire with himself.
Exactly. He conspired with someone. So that's what I've been asking. That, okay, so who did he conspire with? That we are being told that he is guilty and he should be hanged.
Yeah.
But the other one is not. So okay, so where is the person he conspired with? That's why I say I have a challenge with this ruling. It's quite confusing. On the other hand, 2 people are put before court, but one is found guilty. The other, which means that Gregory Afoko wasn't the one he conspired with, isn't it? Anyway, interesting how this will pan out, really, because I think that there is more explanation that should be given, and rightly so. I'm told the judges are really the lawyers are even confused about this. You know, yesterday Evans spoke to the lawyer for the family of Adams Mahama, and he was asking questions. So, if that's the case, who is the other person that this Alandi guy conspired with to commit that heinous crime? So, interesting. I'm told that, well, the state is going to consider whether they would open the case again, because if you are going to retrial Gregory Afoko, you have to start from the beginning. That's the education we've been given. So, if that's the case, will the state be willing to, embark on that particular journey? It's only a matter of time for us to know what the decision of the state will be. But that's the outcome of that particular case that was...
I mean, I had my own curiosity when I read, this ruling or the judgment of the court. And, the death penalty is something we don't take lightly at all. In fact, in Ghana, while it still remains in our statute books, it's one that we don't use often. So for them to come to this conclusion that he should get the axe and Gregory should stay at post, well, or at least not receive such a treatment as of now, is a bit curious. But then again, I always say that we should go to the fine letter of the law and see what it says before because sometimes in law, truth is stranger than fiction.
Okay.
So,
all right, but we should conclude that the judge, per section 286 of Act 30, discharged the jury and remanded Afoko in custody pending a date for the retrial by a different jury.
And that's another aspect, the jury.
Yeah.
Now, the judge of the court, and that's why I like the American system in a way, a judge would give counsel, guidance, and then...
This one she did.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that is the ordinary, but it is up to them to determine.
Yeah.
You get it? So even the justice of the court may have ruled or thought differently, but guidance will be given, and it's up to the jury to decide on that matter. Any other stories?
Yeah, now President Nana Akufo-Addo has asked the international news network Al Jazeera to render an unqualified apology to him over a false publication. According to a demand notice given by the Jubilee House on April 25, 2023, Al Jazeera has 7 days to comply with the seat of government over, quote, inaccurate and unfair documentary that contains spurious and unsubstantiated allegations, end quote, against the president and the government of Ghana, or risk legal action. The letter, is it letter or letter?
Letter.
Letter.
Not, so don't make it sound but don't make it sound either. Some people go like, it takes a schwa sound at the end. Neutral. Letter.
Letter. Okay, so the letter signed by Nana Bedietu Asante, Executive Secretary to the President, indicated that the documentary titled Gold Mafia made baseless claims that the president acted as a lawyer for one Mr. Alistair Matthias and implied that the president personally benefited unlawfully from an alleged $100 million state infrastructure contract purportedly awarded to Mr. Matthias. Now, if you read the letter, it makes reference to the fact that at the end of the documentary, Matthias himself even denied, any knowledge of having a friendship with the president and whatsoever. So, according to the letter, Jazeera wrote to the presidency for responses, and the president, through his legal representative called Esuma, wrote to Jazeera to present, I think, further evidence to enable the president respond.
The question I have on my mind, why then did they go ahead and publish this or put it out?
Yeah, so that's why they are
it must mean, I mean, these news entities across the world, these are major ones. You think of the BBC, the CNN, Al Jazeera, among others. There are others, of course, Reuters. But if they go ahead to do something like this, for me, it means they have some, because these are matters that can be taken up in court.
Yeah.
And you're not talking of any mean figure. You're talking of the president of a land. So if there was such communication and they still went ahead to publish it, I don't know what to say.
But
really.
It doesn't mean they are not gullible or,
No, but I'm not saying they are infallible, but the point is, if that communication did happen and they went ahead to do this, it must tell you that it's like the saying that if a blind man says he will stone you, he must have either a stone in hand or his foot on one. So I do not know, and I do not know whether this is not belated, because at the time, I would suppose that the ferocity we're seeing the president fighting Al Jazeera with now should have been brought to bear then, maybe to forestall any such thing. But I also find it interesting that the gentleman, Matthias, or whatever his name is, he names a number of big wigs in there, and all of these big wigs seem to have something going on with them, whether whichever country, if you follow that documentary. So why would he mention certain names? And if he doesn't have any relationship with them, why name drop like that? But like you also said, on the other end, he says he doesn't really, or he doesn't have any relationship with this person. It's a bit curious, but for me, I want us to get to the bottom of it. That's the bottom line.
But sometimes I also think that people, like we call it influence peddling. For example, someone can go and tell someone outside somewhere, oh, Ben is my friend. Oh, I mean, I attended school with Ben Akakpo. Maybe you don't even know this person. Isn't it possible? Can that be a possibility?
It is, but you know my worry? My worry is that I don't know what it is, because with previous leaders, I've not seen it so rampant.
Okay.
Everyone seems to want to name drop the president, the vice president, and the antecedents are there. My question is why? Okay. From Kwesi Nyantechi, and the president is in my pocket, to who was the next one? I think
this guy.
Edubuahin also did so, right? Charles Edubuahin, who was ousted. Someone else did the same thing. I mean, I can count about 3 or 4. This could be the 4th or the 5th one.
Okay.
And I'm asking myself, why is this always the case? Even in the recent Galamsey report by Professor Frimpong Boateng, again,
he mentioned.
No, I'm saying that he points to the Jubilee House among others. What is happening?
Anyway, well, I mean, for what I've seen, sometimes,
and I'm only saying this. I'm not claiming that.
Matter,
but my question is, it is worrying if our presidency, the very seat of authority in this country, is constantly being pointed at when it comes to some of these things. Okay, remember when the Kanazoe issue, the Ford saga, former President Mahama, that was worrying. But how many times really did you hear of? Do you get it? Atta Mills, how many times did you hear of something like that? Kufuor, even Rawlings. Do you get it? I'm just saying, all of a sudden, we are having a lot of, the president this, the vice president that. And I find it worrying. It's not good for us.
Okay. Well, so like the NDC have called for maybe a bipartisan
probe.
Yeah, into it may probably establish the fact because
that's for the NDC now. Everything they want to have a bipartisan probe. They're asking for same on the Frimpong Boateng issue.
If the man says he was my lawyer, and according to the Secretary of the President, the President has been out of private practice since 2000. Then probably we need to find out within which period.
In which capacity? At what time?
Within which period did this Alistair's company will become a client to the President's law firm. Maybe all of that can bring out the details, really. Yeah.
Well, let's make some tracks. Later, remind me to share with all of us again what the title of my blunt thoughts is for today. Okay. And then, of course, we have a special bit to do at the end. But let's start with the final newspaper. New law on mining and forest reserves to attract investors. That's according to Engineer Ransford Sichi, Deputy Executive Director of Operations with the EPA. Let me just say this, right? Anything I'm told now when it comes to protecting our land resources, gold and all of that, I take with a very, very, very minuscule pinch of salt. Because it is clear to me that whatever rhetoric we have in that space, and today I'll go hard on my blunt thoughts, whatever rhetoric we are seeing is not panning out. So these things I see in newspapers, and we'll do this and we're doing that, our forest cover is being lost at an alarming rate, especially when we're dealing with climate change, global warming. Do you see how hot it gets nowadays? The other day it was around 8 something. The way it was hot, you know, the Kukumlemle Mall. The lady was screaming that, is it Judas's shift this morning? Not even up to 10 o'clock. We're seeing it. We're seeing it with, you see how yesterday the rays just hit. It didn't really, I mean, we saw some cloudiness for a short while and it pelted my brother yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful it didn't go for, you know, a very long time. It was pretty long, but not like 4 hours, 5 hours, because those ones are always disastrous. It depends on where you are.
No, for here, I think it rained from around 3 or so till I was leaving here around 9:30. It was still
but I'm talking of heavy rain, not heavy rain. At a point, it was pelting. I got caught somewhere, so trust me, I was soaked to the bone. Oh yeah. It gave me a whooping, as the Americans will say.
Unfortunately.
We're playing with, it's in some places, people now, in some rural communities, people now have to buy sachet water to do the usual things they would have done with water sources close to them. And we're not even alarmed enough. The Ghana Water Company Limited has come to say if we're not careful, we'll start exporting water.
Well,
Afoko to face retrial, Asapke Alangi to die by hanging. You know, he may have done what he did according to the court, but may God grant him mercy, really, because this kind of thing, I don't know. You don't wish death even on your worst enemy. So it's a sad.
The way they went about it, pouring acid on the man, I think.
But of course, if there's cause and effect. If you do certain things, of course, if like the court is saying he did those things, then. Unfortunate, but he has to bear the consequences for the law.
But I mean, it talks about the access to acid by humans. You know, sometimes we need to talk about how people easily get access to these acid to cause harm to people. So it's also another one aspect of the conversation we need to have. And I don't know when we're going to take a strict stance on how available acid looks like. To everybody. I mean, when you need it, you get it.
Yeah.
We should probably have a chat on it to know that we're restricting access to that particular chemical.
We have a few minutes to go. Akufo-Addo has never interfered in anti-Galamsey clampdown and has shown unflinching support. That's according to the Lands Minister, Samuel Abu Jinapo. I'll just share some thoughts on that. But on page 5, the Liaison Group for Mining in Forest Reserves held a sensitization workshop for key stakeholders in the mining industry on the Environmental Protection Regulations 2022. They took the opportunity to take these stakeholders, some of whom included representatives from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the Minerals Commission, the Geological Survey Authority, Ghana Chamber of Mines, among others, through the key provisions of the new law and how it will help to regulate mining activities in the nation's forest reserves. Well, regulate them, We've seen what happened with Sir John, among others, forest reserves given out. And this whole bit, respectfully, Mr. Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, he's not interfered in the anti-Galamsey clampdown. What I found shocking from the minister, they are really up to the task. They are doing everything possible in the fight against Galamsey. Respectfully. If things have moved from bad to bad to worse to something beyond worse, don't come and tell me we're doing our best. The PRA, I was referencing it, and Erastus Asaredonko corroborated what I said. Kafui Day, put a picture there, 7 months apart.
Yeah.
My own colleague. The PRA, sometime last year. Now, after 7 months. Bro, where are we going?
Nowhere.
So if you see that, if the evidence is that crystal clear,
nowhere,
and you come and tell me, we are, when it is clear from, in fact, you have a report like this hanging on your head, and you come and tell me, really?
Nothing seems to be working, because the results doesn't show that we're really doing anything about the fight. It looks like the more we pump in money, the worse the situation, gets.
And that's my point. Why waste money when we're not doing anything? It's as though Galamsey had caught us like a naughty child, put us on its laps, and was spanking us. That's what Galamsey is doing to us. Charlie, let's make tracks and make the most of it.
My goodness. Anyway, Delhi statesman Akufo-Addo takes on Jazeera over gold mafia documentary. We've dealt with that. Janapo Akufo-Addo cleaning anti-Galamsey fight. I think you've dealt with that one. Austria and Ghana boost ties. Ghana Hydro Board urged to develop drainage master plan to address flooding. We're always urging to develop master plan. Nothing concrete on the ground being done, really. If we don't take care, another rains will come, and then we will never be prepared for what will be what would unleash on us. So let's
look. I always say this country.
Let's move from the drawings to actualities. Okay?
God is very considerate with us.
Yeah.
If Ghana had been like some other parts of the world, when I stayed in Cuba for just about a year, of course, you would have the typhoons and the cyclones sometimes and all of that. Even that island country, without a fraction of the resources we have, they have measures. If we found ourselves in such a situation, I shudder to think of where we would be. I shudder to think of where we would have been. Because common rain, since independence, we've not been able to deal with it.
No, we haven't.
Flooding.
And we're always talking about plans. Every day, we plan to do this. Every day, this is what we've done. We've 90% of our drainages have been desilted, whatever. It's always talk. I don't see really our real actions to deal with the problems. Because, look, it will rain today, Accra will get flooded. We'll come back here and say, we are working on ensuring that it doesn't get flooded. Maybe we are talking about magnitude reducing. But the flooding is still occurring. What have we been doing? What have our evaluation been telling us of the effort that we've been doing, we've put in the past? Because if you evaluate your actions, it should then give you recommendations that you can do to better where you were yesterday. But it looks like for us, we always keep talking about plans and nothing concrete being done.
Oh, well,
shocking.
The Ghanaian publisher, some of the stories have already been mentioned. I'll not go to them. But major boost for rice production as AAC CSIR signed MOU. There's also new DVLA office ready in August. Osubio okays progress of work. NLA licenses Game Park Limited to operate lottery in Ghana. And the gold mafia presidency gives Al Jazeera 7 days to retract, apologize to Akufo-Addo. 7 days. What do you think will happen in this? What do you foresee happening?
Well, Al Jazeera won't respond. The presidency takes them to court if indeed they mean what they said in the letter. Or Al Jazeera looks at what's happening and probably, gets the presidency to a table.
I suspect there may be a response, but not a retraction.
Okay. It'll be interesting. I really want to see how this travels.
I suspect, out of respect, there would be a response, but as for a retraction, I do not know. I do not know. And I would want to see, if there isn't a retraction, I would indeed want to see the presidency take on Al Jazeera.
That's my wish.
Because it's not just a shame to the seat. The seat represents us. It's a shame to all of Ghana. Anyway, so today, after Prime Take, I'll be sharing my blunt thoughts with you, and I've titled it, Galamsey hypocrites, environmental terrorists, and economic con artists. Ghana under siege. Galamsey hypocrites, environmental terrorists, and economic con artists. Ghana under siege. Stay for that later on the show. But today is a very special day, right before we knock off, right before I acknowledge Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Maza, so you say, ye be chows.
Oh, no. I don't know.
Form one boy, ye be chows. So I form one boy, ye be chows. So but it will just be showers of blessings. Today happens to be this fine gentleman, this fine Ahanta gentleman's birthday. And we're celebrating you in style. You're a fantastic guy.
Thank you, I'm grateful.
Since you joined, it's been amazing. And you're one of the people I've really loved working with here.
Thank you.
I mean, sure.
I love you too.
May he anoint you, bless you.
There's this message I would want to give to people. You see, I am where I am today by grace. Ben, in 2016, I almost took my life.
Wow.
Because of life's challenges. The challenges were overweighing me. That after school, I've worked and worked, but I'm still paying debt. I've still not been able to. So I wanted to end it all.
Wow.
But I have friends. Aswad Akonamate, he's in Takwa now. Gideon Arthur, he passed on a few years ago. But they were the people who kept me together. Yeah, they kept me together. Aswad always tells me that, Kojo, you know how gold is made. You have to pass through fire
to be refined.
So he would tell me this, and then we would pray together. I remember in one of those instances after work, I went into my room. My wife was in the market. I cried, and I thought I had to. Then I turned it into prayer, and then something happened. I got some small gig. I got some money. Something directed me that gave it to some small boy. I gave it because that was all I had, and then it changed. So sometimes life problems can really push you to think of doing something to yourself. But just keep up, pray to God. Because if I had died, it was in 2016. How many years now? Is it 6 years ago?
Yeah, just about 7 years.
This is where I am. So I didn't end my life there. There nobody knew me, but today I am here and people know me. So life can be very difficult, but know that your tomorrow is better than today. And keep faith.
Charlie, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, yeah. Happy birthday to you. Hooray! And that's the entire squad from here. Sure. Producer, director, sound, camera. Everybody. And I celebrate you.
And I love the team. I love the family. It's a family of, close-knit family, and I love everything. Everyone has everybody's back. This is what we all have to do,
God bless you, bro.
I'm grateful.
God bless you. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helped us to bring you this segment. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Reach them in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma Bwehian behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22. There's Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Nzima. Reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. It's another conversation with Joseph Agbeko as we hit you with prime take. What else does he have to share with us today? Stay tuned for that. And right after that, I'll share with you my blunt thoughts.
The first time I won the world title, every boxer's dream is to become a champion.
Yeah.
So on that night, I knew I was going to win, but immediately the referee declared the fight as a technical knockout. The brain was just running. Everybody came and they started carrying me and so on, and I was like, wow. This has been the dream that I had from childhood, and today I have been able to achieve that dream by God's grace. I was so. The joy was serious. That night, I actually slept with my belt. You know, I have to lay the belt beside me and then sleep with the belt.
I can imagine that.
Yeah,
the excitement alone of finally laying your hand on a world title after that.
But winning it for the second time was, I mean, the joy was more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was more.
Why?
You know, in boxing, right, Floyd Mayweather is a fighter who has never lost before. And I've always loved him for that. But to the boxing community, they do not respect fighters who has not lost before. You know, you can call yourself the great and they still don't respect you.
Because you've never lost?
Yeah. You know,
Why?
I think if you not lost, that means you didn't give yourself the chance for anybody to beat you. Floyd was on his toe, making sure that he fought all the top fighters at his time, and he made sure he beat all of them.
Yes.
You know, so to me, that is the greatest to me. You know, but to the boxing community, for you to be called a champion, it's not about you winning a title. The road for you to win a title is very long for the first time. It's long, and you go through it, and then you become a champion. It's very tough. But when you lose the belt, for you to win it again, believe me, that is the most toughest. You see, after losing the fight, you see yourself among the top-rated fighters. You see yourself among the best. So it makes it easier for you to be able to get a chance to fight for a championship again. Unlike you climbing from the ground to the top.
Yeah.
So you are already there. But winning it there is the most toughest because you've already tasted defeat. That thing has entered into your brain. The courage and a lot of things that you used to go into the ring with is no more than now. Whenever you're going into the ring, the brain is to win and lose. It's the most toughest part of every boxer.
So when
you lose and you are able to come back and win again, that is when they call you a champion.
When you lost your title, how was it like for you?
It was like the end of the road for me. When I lost it the first time, it was like the end of the road. I was like, wow, I come from Africa. And for Africans to get opportunity is very, very hard. So when am I going to get this opportunity again? Because you know, Africans doesn't sell tickets in America. We don't like to buy plane tickets from here to America to go and watch boxing. And the most toughest part for any African is that even when they buy ticket, the most expensive ticket from Ghana to board a plane to America, when they come to America, they want you, the fighter, to pay for hotel for them. They want you, the fighter, to give them tickets to go watch fights. So it doesn't give the African fighters any value. African fighters doesn't get any value in America when they're fighting because they don't bring nothing to the table. They don't sell tickets, they don't do anything. So for an African boxer to get opportunity, it's hard. They would rather give those opportunities to the Spanish people because they watch boxing a lot. So I was thinking, like, when am I going to get that opportunity again? So when it came back again, I made sure I have to do my best to win it.
When you lost the second fight, and many Ghanaians were like, oh, Wama, Obabu, Abina Mary, and what was that?
Abina Maris.
No, they were saying Abina Mary. Like, you know, Ghanaians were jokingly saying that you've allowed a woman to beat you. And how did you feel when all this came out?
Yeah, this is what I have to tell Ghanaians. You know, boxing is a very, very, very tough sport. And the one in the ring wants to win more than you, the one watching. You know, and one thing they have to know is that the government does not invest into our preparation towards any fight. And they're the fans that watch us. They don't even come over there to pay so we can have get some value in terms of bargaining value for our earnings. Do you get me? They only sit here and they watch. And whenever you lose, everyone wants to insult you. Whenever you win, they want to share the glory with you. But whenever you lose, everyone wants to insult you. But you win. You want to win more than they want you to win. You want to do everything one more that they want to get it. So whenever if Ghanaians know that they want to criticize boxers, they should be ready to be investing into the preparation of fighters. They should put pressure on the government so the government can invest in the preparation for fighters. Then whenever a fighter loses, like how Black Star, they give money to Black Stars, and when they lose, everyone can insult them. They should be able to put pressure on the government so the government can invest into the preparation of the fighters so that whenever we lose, they can insult us. You know?
That's quite an interesting one. But there are people who also argue that national team is a team sport. Boxing is an individual thing. So there are people who can argue that. And when you're going for a major tournament, it's a tournament that the country has registered to be part of. Boxing is an individual boxer who has gone to register.
So when the individual goes and he wins or he loses, they should keep quiet so that he can come home and have his rest. because it's an individual sport. So they should take their loss individually. They should take it individually so that once they come, it's for them. You didn't do anything. So they go. When you see them, you wave at them or you don't. They are, you know. But if you know, that's all. Don't say anything.
After that fight against Abner Mares, your career took a complete nosedive. What happened?
I think that those low blows from Mares took me a very low.
It took loads of energy out of you?
It took me very low in terms of my career. Not because it took energy of me, but that particular fight actually took a lot from me. If I hadn't engaged in the second fight, my career would have looked a little better. But I would say God knows best. God knows why everything went that way.
So would you describe that fight as your lowest moment as a boxer?
Yes.
Wow. You also had many planned fights that were cancelled. What happened? Remember those ones? That
yes.
In fact, when we became partners and in some of your fights,
yeah.
I remember one, we went for the weigh-in. We were there when the opponent was not coming. What happened? What happened that most of your fights were cancelled?
I would say at a point of time between 2012, 2013, I was installed at Warrior Chief, Toby Kaleto, in the Volta region. And after that installment, a lot of things started going off in my career. Even in the US, before I have to move from the US to Ghana, I was facing a challenge. I was facing a challenge in the US where, because I was staying in New York before I moved to Vegas.
Okay.
So staying in Vegas for some time, I have to now change my my license from New York license to Nevada license. So, excuse me, going through medicals to get the Nevada license, there were a few. I failed, not fail, but there was a problem with one of my medical. So I have to go back and do other exams just to confirm what they see. And when I went to do all those exams, there was nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with me. But still, when I go to the other one, there's still problem. But when I go to check, there's nothing wrong with me. So I was having challenges getting the Nevada license. So I decided to come back home. I decided to come back home. When I came back home. You
said you were in skin as a chief, right?
Yeah.
You have some roots from the Volta region?
Come again?
Do you have some roots from the Volta region?
I'm 100% Voltarian.
But you were born in Sukura?
I was born in Sukura, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I'm 100% Voltarian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I came to Ghana, I went for the check, the same medical again over here, and there was nothing wrong with me. I did it twice, and there was nothing wrong with me.
So medically, there was nothing wrong with you?
With me, but I don't know why it keeps showing over there that there was a problem and whenever they even check it, they review it, they can't see anything. But when I came to Ghana too, there was nothing wrong with me. So I just had a feeling that there was a strong force against my career if I want to. I just had a feeling like that. And every time I try to do anything, I always have...
As in a spiritual force against your career in what?
Yes, I'll put it that way. I will put it that way. There was a strong force against me in my career. Every time I try to do something, any boxing match, anything, one way or the other, I always have challenges. I always have people trying to pull me back. I always have other challenges. Things are not working. In few years ago, I was supposed to fight for the WBO final eliminator in the UK. One way or the other, something happened and it couldn't happen. About over a year now, about a year ago, I was supposed to fight for the WBO World Championship in Dubai. We were in Dubai, we prepared for the fight and everything. Even preparing for the fight, I fell sick. I had to go through the sickness, overcome it, go to Dubai, prepare to fight. And about 2 to 3 hours before the fight, the opponent called that he can't take the fight anymore. You know, so the fight got cancelled.
There was also a similar one. You were supposed to fight a Kenyan opponent.
Yeah.
We were in Bokum waiting for arrival for weigh-in and all that. All of a sudden, the fight did not happen again.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those.
And there's nothing. There's no reason why those fights were cancelled.
Yeah.
They didn't give you any concrete reason. They would just tell you, I don't want to fight again.
It has always been going like that.
But there were also people who claimed that you had issues with the Ghana Boxing Authority who were not sanctioning your fights.
I would say I do not have any issue with the Ghana Boxing Authority. If I will have any issue, maybe it will be an individual people on the board who may have issues with me. I don't know if for a tribal reason or not. I grew up in Bese. I spent most of my time in Bese. So I see myself more of a gun than even an Ewe. You know, so I don't know why, but the boxing community does not appreciate me, does not love me. They don't treat me like how they treat the other fighters. I don't know if because I'm from the Volta region or whatever, but I actually live there. But for some reason, there are a lot of people in there that they don't like me.
So you felt marginalized?
Even with the Bokum Boxing Arena. When you go inside the Bokum Boxing Arena, there is a place where they have all the champions' picture in there.
Yeah, I can even picture some of them. Yeah.
When you go in there, you know, Joseph Akakpo was not a fighter who just won a world title once. When you look at the champions, from the greats Azuma Nelson, DK Poison, everyone, if you want to mention about 3 or 4 great champions among all the 10, you mention me. Because I was 2 times world champion. I even added a bonus one, which is IBO, and IBO is not a regular world title. So I would say 2 times world champion. Azuma was 3 times. Nana Okonedu was also, I think, 2 or 3 times or 2 division. So, but I was behind those top great fighters. So I have achieved a lot in the boxing fraternity, you know. So there's no way anybody trying to put pictures of fighters who has achieved for Ghana and they wouldn't think about Joseph Akakpo.
So you feel that people of Bokum don't appreciate you, and even the boxing?
The boxing, I don't think
they don't respect you.
It's not. I wouldn't say they don't. They don't appreciate me. I don't know. But
do you feel hurt by this?
Come again?
Do you feel hurt that, despite all the successes you've chalked, if you're putting up an arena that is dominated by boxing legends and they don't consider you in there, it's quite an insult. Do you feel hurt?
Yeah, I would say, yes, I feel hurt sometimes. Because I feel hurt sometimes.
Sometimes, but not all the time.
You know, I just feel like maybe as I'm thinking that they hate, maybe it's part of me. I was born like that.
You were born to always have issues surrounding you and all that.
For people to hate, for people who have worked hard to make them proud to appreciate me.
We are opening the conversation pretty soon, but I have 3 quick questions that I want to ask. One of them definitely would have to be, at this point, what are you doing? Have you retired yet?
Have I retired yet?
Yeah. At 43, have you retired? You don't even look 43. You look like some 25-year-old boy.
There's a lot of questions when it comes to my age, but I wouldn't want to go into that now. Am I retired? I would say yes. I have retired. I have retired from boxing.
If you have retired, what next?
I'm coming. I think just a second to
calm down.
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Have you retired yet?
Yes.
You have retired.
Yes, I'm a retired boxer now. When I started going through those challenges, trying to make fights, trying to come back, you know, it got to a time that I realized that I wasn't fighting my opponents, but I was fighting the boxing fraternity. You know, I realized I wasn't fighting the opponent, the people I was fighting, because a fighter who had been up came down and want to go back, and the people who supposed to be helping me to push me up became the people who were fighting me. A lot of challenges were coming. I realized that maybe it's just a signal that God is telling me that, okay, Charlie, you've done your own. It's time for you to, call it a career. So I have retired.
They forced you to retire?
Come again?
Did they force you to retire because of the events that were, not as in, hey, stop, but because of the circumstances?
Not particularly just the Ghana Boxing Authority. You know, this is the problem that we are having with Ghana Boxing. I hope you have a little battery to
Please
go
do.
on.
Please do.
This is the problem that we are having with Ghana Boxing. First of all, I think the GBA itself, right? I think the GBA itself need a lot of schooling. When I say schooling, not just the current GBA, every GBA administration. I've been in the US, they come for fights all the time. Do you understand me? I think the GBA need to always send members of their board to always go to the US, go to Nevada Athletic Commission, go to New York Athletic Commission, to learn a lot of things when it comes to governing boxing, so that they will know how to, manage boxing in Ghana. I think in the boxing fraternity here in Ghana, I think the managers, the promoters, and even the boxers, we need to be enrolled on regular clinics that will, help managers to know how to manage fighters, to help promoters to know how to promote fighters. I always say that boxing is equally tough as the streets, if not more. You know, because every time a boxer goes into the ring, they put their life on the line. Every minute they step into the ring, or every minute in the gym, and they put on that gloves, they put their life on the line. Even on a boxer's easy day, the day that the boxer is going to win the fight very easily, he will still see blood. If not from his mouth, than from his opponent. You know, when you go to Accra Central, even around 3, 4 on a sunny day, you see young fighters wearing like rubber dress, very hot, very warm, running on the sun, just to reduce their weight and be able to fight. Boxers doesn't think just like how every other person thinks. The way we prepare for a fight has a lot to do with our brain. Even in the ring, the toughness that we build up for us to be able to be in the ring, to fight and go through all those runs, has a lot of effect on our brain. So boxers act differently from the normal ones. So when you are managing boxers or you are promoting boxers, you need to go to the people who actually introduce the sport to you properly, so you learn a lot of things from them, so that when you are having issues or you are dealing with boxers, you will know how to deal with boxers. But I would say that from the GBA, from the managers, from the promoters, majority of them, they don't know how to handle the sport. You know, boxers in Ghana, boxers are treated like a piece of help. Every manager, every trainer, every promoter treat the boxers like they are helping them. They feel like I have my money.
I'm doing you a favor.
I'm doing you a favor. I'm helping you. Do you get me? But you are not helping. They treat the boxers like they are beggars. You know, some of the boxers, before they'll get their allowance, before they'll get certain things to be done, they have to beg. They have to change managers before all those things happen. You know, the boxers are just like a cash cow for the managers or for the promoters, you know. And the boxers are actually the main business. They put their life on the line. You go into the ring with no any assurance that you can come out of the ring healthy, or you can even come out of the ring alive, you know. So this is a sport that the GBA itself need a lot of coaching on how to govern the authority.
What have they done to suggest that they don't know how to govern the sport?
There has been so many, you know. There can never ever be a GBA. There can never ever be a GBA or a manager or a promoter without a boxer putting his life on the line. If a young fighter does not decide that this is the sport I want to do, I want to put my life on the line to make a living and to make my people proud, we are not going to have any manager, we are not going to have any promoter, and we are not going to have any GBA. So before any other thing, GBA managers or promoters, they always have to know that boxer comes first. When you go to the US and you see how even Duncan, to his level, the biggest Duncan, when you see how Duncan relates to his boxers, you would think Duncan is just a small boy. How he relates to his bosses. You see other managers, other promoters, they treat, a boxer is someone that you have to treat like your wife. Even though it's not your wife, it's someone that you have to play with his mind. You have to make him feel good, because you are going to put him into the ring for him to take his life on the line, for him to make a living where you get the check. So you need to make him feel. I don't think the GBA, the boxing management and all, I don't think they are doing what people are pushing. People are doing everything they can do to be able to produce champions. They are doing their best that they can. But I think we need a regular clinics for both the.
So with your knowledge, would you consider putting yourself in a position of governing boxing in Ghana?
No, I've never thought of that.
Are you part, or have you offered advice or suggestions on how you think the sport should be managed in Ghana?
There was one time I was offering an idea to one of the Secretary General of the Ghana Boxing Authority on how certain things can be done, or something that can be done that can favor the former champions. Because I feel it's that time I hadn't.
As in putting together a plan on how to honor former champions, former world champions?
Not to honor. I feel when people engage into boxing, like boxers, especially we boxers from Ghana, everything that we do is boxing. So most time when we are done with boxing, we have nothing to do. So I came out with a plan that if they put that plan together, it will be a platform where any former champion or any boxer who has gotten to some height in the sport can subscribe on that project and be able to get himself active and also use his brand or his image and his influence from the sport to also grow another fighter so that can keep making busy and also be another point for him of making some money and also building a champion. And it wasn't welcome. Because
why didn't you put it on paper? You have just put it on paper. When you put it on paper, it's documented. They have the document lying down there. This is from Joseph Ebogo. If someone leaves, whether it was Peter Zones, it was Moses Fuamone, it is Abraham Korte, when he comes, the letter is there.
I was sharing the idea with the secretary, and the secretary wasn't accepting the idea, but he was coming up with another idea that can bring money directly to the Ghana Boxing Authority. Do you get me? He was suggesting another idea that can bring money directly to the Ghana Boxing. They want money, you bring them ideas. That is why I said the GBA need to go to the athletic, like the Nevada Athletic Commission of New York, to learn, because those people know how to make money. Those people know how to regulate the sport. So they're able to combine where they'll be able to
sport and make money.
They know how to be able to groom the sport and be able to make money to manage the whole thing. But if you don't go to those people, you won't get an idea.
So what next for Joseph Akakpo? What do you have? Do you have some plans? Are you considering being a boxing promoter, a boxing manager, a boxing coach?
I have the Joseph Akakpo Foundation.
Okay.
When I was coming up as a fighter, I grew up with a lot of fighters that I considered to be more talented than myself, but for some reason they couldn't get the chance to become champions. Yeah. And I feel the cause has to be from lack of maybe guidance or lack of management or something. So Joseph Akakpo Foundation has been working on a mentorship project that will put some light, some guidance and stuff on some particular boxers that I see talent in them, and I think that is how I can also give back to the sport. Joseph Akakpo Foundation is also working on a project with Ace Power Promotion, Origin 8 Limited.
I know them.
On a project called Street to Champion. Street to Champion is a poverty elevation project where we want to use boxing as a tool to elevate poverty of the streets, for us to be able to, to help the boys of the street. So I'm still working behind the scene to be able to, give back to boxing.
Would you consider management or coaching in boxing? Or even promotion? Would you consider that?
Promotion. I've been a promoter. I have promoted, I think, twice or 3 times in Ghana. My promotion actually made a change in Ghana boxing. 2013. Fresh King Entertainment promoted a fight at the Accra Sports Stadium,
I recall.
Which was a massive one. The night was filled with a majority of the celebrities in Ghana. It was an international fight, and that was the first time that a fight was staged in Ghana where we had all the ring light and everything. Yeah. And after that, people start to put that into consideration. People start using the ring light and everything. So my promotional company has actually...
Is it still active?
It's not active, but definitely...
Will you bring it back?
I'm going to come back.
You're going to come back? Yeah. It will be a travesty for me to end this conversation without talking about, in fact, 3 boxers, not 2 boxers. Richard Comey, Isaac Dogbe, recently in their fights against Ramirez and then Robaisi, they both lost their fights, taking our boxing further downward. Many people are saying, what next for us? Did you watch those fights, though? Did you watch the fights?
No.
In your spare time, what do you do? It means you've given up on boxing, cry.
I watch some highlights of the fights.
Oh, okay.
I've not been that close with Richard Comey, but Isaac has been very close with me.
Oh, okay.
He makes sure he calls me from time to time and so on. And I think Isaac is really pushing himself very hard. Richard is also doing the same. Like I said from the beginning, winning the title the first time is easy to be done.
Defending it.
But losing it and winning it back is the tougher one. And I believe if they don't give up and they keep on pushing, they stay humble and they try to get closer to people like Azuma Nelson, people like Quote and so on, I believe they can still become champions.
They can still become champions. What advice do you have for young boxers?
You always have to be ready. If you are always ready, you are not going to get ready. Like I had my first title shot. It was a 3 weeks notice, but because I was ready, I was able to grab the opportunity. I'll say before I finish with everything, I would like to take this opportunity to reintroduce myself. I think the brand Joseph Akakpo has done all he can do as a fighter.
Yeah.
I've been in there, I've given it my all, I've made my people proud, and I want Joseph Akakpo to be treated as my legacy. I want to live to see the legacy of Joseph King Kong Akakpo, and from now onwards, I would like to tell the general public to address me by the name Togbi Kaleto II. I am no more Joseph.
Please take the name again.
Togbi Kaleto II.
So I'm speaking to Togbi Kaleto II, not Joseph Akakpo.
On a serious note, on a serious note,
yeah.
I want to be addressed as Togbi Kaleto II from now onwards.
After sports, that engagement with Joseph King Kong Akakpo, we're back in the studio. And you know when you see this, and you see me standing right here, that I'm about to share with you my blunt thoughts on a Friday morning. I've titled it today, Galamsey Hypocrites, Environmental Terrorists, and Economic Con Artists, Ghana under siege. Galamsey Hypocrites, Environmental Terrorists, and Economic Con Artists. Ghana under siege. Ghana for wake up. Wake up and smell the coffee. Growing up, you see, we all were told of deceitful people. Sometimes they were even portrayed as those untrustworthy people who, when they told you to look up, you would rather have to look down because there was no truth in them, like the Bible would say. Today, Ghana for the very people whom we have selected to govern us with our own power, we give them the power, have become pathological liars whose words you cannot even trust for a moment. Well, maybe they had always been that anyway, so there's no change. They had just not shown it. I mean, how else can you rationalize or explain the sickening, not to mention nonsensical forces we are being subjected to on the daily? How? Tell me. But even before I get into the rest of what I have to say, I'm going to be focusing on Galamsey the environment broadly, and then I'll talk about where we are economically, and then I'll come back. Now, in this first slide, if you look at that Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, and of course, there's been a lot of talk about that in recent times. Look at when they started work. March 2017. How many years ago? About 6 years ago. The purpose was to fight illegal mining. It was dissolved in January 2021 after 4 years. The reasons: the Secretariat was hit by an alleged bribery and corruption scandal, which has been the bane of this entire fight against Galamsey, and I must say, of this administration. Let's go to the next slide. Now, when you look at the IMCIM and its composition, you would see that the Ministry for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, MESTI as we called it, Professor Frimpong Boateng's ministry back then, Lands and Natural Resources, Local Government and Rural Development, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Regional Reorganization and Development, Monitoring and Evaluation, Water and Sanitation, crucial, Interior, Defense, Information, were all on this. Let's go to the next slide. Now, the claims being made, what is fact, what is fiction? I found it a bit interesting when I heard that chief, in Chebi, taking on the good old professor. I get that he may not get everything spot on, but this whole bit about, if you're going to talk about the fact that there's no digging, no Galamsey going on there, fine. But this bit about politics that was being played, and now I think we ought to take on some of these chiefs. Honestly, we should get past that situation. There's a difference between respect and when someone is in error. We have this mind-boggling thing in this part of the world where if an adult is not making sense, we try to cover it and say, oh, are you penny? So you're penny, now can't say it and the answer say, well, can't. Now, look at his allegations. Officials at the presidency heavily involved in Galamsey. You've seen the Galamsey kingpin list. Major people, and I'm disappointed in some of them because some of them are people I know personally and respect. Some of them were in the media. NPP bigwigs orchestrated his ousting, according to him. Allegations of 500 missing excavators untrue, according to him. Leading NPP officials served as legal counsels for Galamsey suspects. We all know whom he's talking about. And the MP sold illegally acquired concessions at 200,000 Ghana cedis. Yantong Nianko. After all, we heard it at a point, right? Party Hiesika. Let's go to the next slide. Now, in reacting to that, the opposition NDC has called for a probe into the Galamsey report. And for the NDC themselves, I do not look at them in a slightly better light because things weren't as bad as they are now. But they can't exempt themselves either. This is a problem that has been with them and remains even now. It's just a worse form that we are seeing now, the hypocrisy of it. The NDC itself, some of your members were pointed to. You're not talking about that. You should talk about that too, because you're also complicit. Now, they called on the special prosecutor to launch a full-scale investigation into the matter with the aim of prosecuting anyone found culpable. And they've called on Parliament to initiate a public inquiry into the Galamsey report. I want to see these happen. And for once, the NDC should be able to stick to its word and push for some of these things until they happen. Next slide. Now, look at some reactions. When you look at the president's cousin, he looks nice, doesn't he? Gabi called me on phone to defend a mining company destroying Ghana's vegetation. That's what the report says. He called to defend. Gabi says, weak Frimpong Boateng twisted my intervention. Oh, sir. And I weigh Brother Bernard. Through Gabi's intervention, arrested Chinese Galamseyers were released by the task force. I don't know. You put the loose ends together and draw your own conclusions. Next slide. Now, if you look at the CNG Alaska's history of abusing mining permits and regulations, and they are one of those prominently cited by Professor Frimpong Boateng, you would see that they had a history. 29th November 2016, Mr. Tony Obin quoted them as seriously engaged in legal mining. 30th January 2017, around the time, right before the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining started its work, Mr. Tony Obin, Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission, says they were undertaking mining activities illegally. 2nd October 2017, Honorable John Peter Amewu, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, said CNG Alaska does not have a valid mining operating permit and are directed not to carry out any mining operations. So what happened? What happened? And Gabi, I'll leave my comments. Next slide. Now, President Akufo-Addo, in that same year, July 2017, I put my presidency on the line for Galamsey fight. President Akufo-Addo in October 2022, quote, I will deal with government officials found complicit in Galamsey activities. And then, in respect of Al Jazeera's latest investigation, gold mafia, from this month. A gold trader exposed in the investigative documentary has alleged that President Akufo-Addo is his friend and lawyer. Of course, we know the presidency has written a missive to Al Jazeera seeking some retraction or apology. I'm not Al Jazeera. I don't work there. I just find it curious that time and again, from Kwesi Nyantakyi till now, from having the president in his pocket to Charles Bissiou and what he has said, we always have people pointing to, and not just locals, people pointing to our president, and usually the vice as well, in terms of being complicit in these things. Why? I'm not saying they are guilty, but I'm asking a genuine question as a citizen, not a spectator. Why? Let's go to the next slide. Now, as of 2017, over 200,000 people were engaged in Galamsey, looking at the fight against Galamsey. Nearly 3 million, we're told, rely on Galamsey for their livelihoods. That also points to a failure by administration after administration to deal with the unemployment situation. That is a pointer. Why would they want to risk their lives with cyanide and mercury and all of that? Do you know what that does to the body? They do that because our leaders have failed them. Ghana attracted 50,000 gold seekers from China alone. 50,000. You remember back then when we did the list and how many nationals from other countries were here, from the sub-region and especially outside from China, who were here milking our resources. And now we know, of course, that they are helped, enabled by big wigs in our system. One Galamsey kingpin allegedly employs over 300 Chinese. These migrant workers, together with a number of Ghanaians as well. So this fight, I'll tell you bluntly, Ghana, we are not winning Foko. We are not winning anything. We lie bad. With this, what we are doing here, go and look at the PRA and go and look at the Ankobra and come and tell me we are winning what fight. That's why I got a bit annoyed when recently I heard the lands minister, they are doing everything and waiting. Let's go to the next slide. Implications of Galamsey. Now, more than 19,000 hectares, or about 2% of cocoa plantations, were destroyed by Galamsey operators. And now that situation is even worse. But here's the breakdown. Cocoa output slumped by 34% in the first 6 months of 2022 compared to 2021. That's what they will not tell you. 34%. 34%. Food security is also at risk. Millions of people, as we've been told recently, in Ghana and the Ivory Coast are facing hunger. And that's according to the UN. So you see the double whammy, or triple whammy if you like. Galamsey is polluting our waters, polluting our land, and we're also at risk of hunger. God help us, really. Let's go to the next slide. Now, looking at budgetary allocations for Green Ghana, you would think that, look, we're facing all these problems with Galamsey and reclamation of land, so planting trees would be a good thing, right? It is, but it all depends on how it's done and where the money ends up, the paper trail. And that's my problem here. Let's do a quick analysis. In the year 2022, the budgetary allocation, 9.6 million Ghana cedis. 2023, 2.5 million Ghana cedis. Now, it's interesting that we're allotting another 2.5 million Ghana cedis to do this, because I've always said that we don't have the statistics on how many of these trees have survived. We heard some of them were eaten by goats. With the sums we've pumped in, what has been the value for money analysis, so to speak? How do we know that we're making inroads? The last time I heard Mr. President say about 80-something% the last time had survived. Based on what analysis? Based on what statistics? We deal in the media, like you see me doing. We deal with statistics. And we already have a debt of 28 million Ghana cedis owed those who have provided seedlings to us. We're an economy without money, and we're still expending money on an exercise on which we have no data, really, in terms of how much we're gaining from it. It's like the fight against Galamsey. We keep pumping money in there, and the situation keeps getting worse. Shambolic. Next slide. Now, in terms of Ghana's dwindling international reserves, pay attention, follow me. The gross international reserves, valued at $5.9 billion. The import cover, gross import cover, is 2.6 months. The net international reserve, $2.6 billion, and the import cover net, then, is 1.2 months. According to the IMF projections, and we'll get to the next slide, I'll show you the disparity between the Bank of Ghana's projections and the IMF's projections. The import cover is only 0.6 months, a little over 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Now, that is dangerous. In case you didn't know, having about 3 weeks of import cover is basically bordering on the disastrous. Next slide. Now, if you look at the Bank of Ghana, the output of Ghana's import cover, Bank of Ghana versus the IMF, 2020, they said 4 months. 2021, 4.3. 2022, 2.7. According to the IMF, around that same period, 2.5, 2.4, and now 0.6. That is where we are. Next slide. Now the impact, the real comparative. There are fewer dollars available for imports on the back of that. There's pressure on the cedi, and we're still seeing the cedi bleeding against foreign currencies. Inflation may skyrocket, and we're already seeing it. It may be dipping, but do you really see the difference on the market? It's still there, and it's biting hard. There are more defaults, external defaults expected, and we can expect more downgrades. Again, we're still in the throes, Fitch, among others. And the Eurobond market, obviously, is completely out of reach for now. We dug ourselves into a pit, deep one, and we have to bear the consequences. Next slide. But what does all of this mean comparatively? This is Ghana. Let's look at Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, South Africa, and Zambia. Currently, we like to talk big and compare ourselves. So let's do the analysis, yeah? Their import cover, Zambia, 3.1 months. South Africa, 5.2 months. Big brother South Africa on the continent. Rwanda, 3.7 months. We like to downplay them. You see? You see? Nigeria, 5.7 months. We like to talk, oh, Nigeria, 5.7 months. And oh, Buhari, oh, Tinubu, 5.7 months. What do we have here? Kenya, 3.7 months. Look at this leak. Look at us. 0.6 months. 3 weeks of import cover. Nothing to show. If you want to be a braggart, at least have something to show. This administration has been nothing short of blatantly hypocritical in tackling, or should I say failing to tackle Galamsey. It has been criminally negligent with our economy. And yes, I feel we have been conned by shrewd politicians who told us what we wanted to hear in order to attain power, only to borrow left, right, and center with precious little to show for it and leave us in the lurch. This administration, in my books, has been ridiculously disastrous. In fact, atrocious in handling our most urgent affairs. What is it? Corruption? Galamsey? Moving from taxation to production? Infrastructure, whether roads or schools or hospitals? Where exactly has this administration lived up to expectation? Tell me. Every administration is remembered for something. Rawlings, for the end of military rule and being willing to see to the establishment of a proper democratic space, rural electrification, bringing sanity into our system. Kufuor, for the school feeding program, which is now in tatters, the National Health Insurance Scheme, the Metro Mass Transit or Transport System. Atta Mills, for competent moral leadership shown through clamping down on corruption. Improved gross international reserves, the single spine salary structures implementation, domestic financing, the clearing of TOR's debt. I could go on and on. Mahama, the Takoradi port expansion, the Etuabo gas processing plant, the educational e-blocks, the Kwame Nkrumah Circle interchange, among other road infrastructure, health infrastructure, including the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, among others. I ask you, Ghanani, this morning, what will you remember this Akufo-Addo-led administration for, apart from free SHS, that is? I'm not saying they have done nothing. My question rather is, what will you remember this administration for? What exactly? If you look at me, I'm sure everyone would say, oh, Benjamin Akakpo on the AM show, I remember him for this or that. What would you remember this administration for? The ball is in your court. This period for me has been one of the most difficult in myriad ways. Only God's graciousness has seen me through these turbulent times. How much am I still purchasing fuel for? How about my utilities? How about inflation and the cost of living? Talk of Galamsey and what it's doing to the food and water I end up consuming, and you'd get my drift. This administration has been nothing short of a disaster. I insist on that. We all know it, so let's not even pretend we don't. We all need to act, as I end, to stop this environmental terrorism in terms of Galamsey. Do you know where the food on your plate, the fish in your fridge come from? Do you know what Galamsey has deposited in them? Heavy metals do not degrade. They bioaccumulate, and they are killing us slowly. Galamsey is nothing short of evil. Let us expose all involved in it and pray that God deals with all in power who are turning a blind eye to the menace. And I thank Dr. Ken Ashigbe for some of these words. You have a role to play. I also have to do my bit. Let's say no to Galamsey. These Ghana 4 are my reflections, effusions, if you like, on the hypocrisy of our system and why we still are here. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, unedited, undiluted. God richly bless Ghana, I keep saying, and make her great and strong. Welcome back on the AM show. As you can see in the background, it's all about the weather for starters as we get into our big stories. And we're going to be contemplating the torrential rains from yesterday. It poured for quite a while. I got caught in it somewhere. I was soaked to the bone. I mean, my dress was, and I had to go somewhere. My shoe, everything was just taken over by the rainwater. So today we speak to the Ghana Meteorological Agency on what more to expect. We'll be checking the extent of damage caused by the rain, and I saw some of that on my stretch. In fact, this morning, there was still flooding. There was intermittent rain overnight. There was flooding on 3 portions of the stretch that I used. 3. And you know what that does to traffic. So there's a whole lot of slowdown, and you have to be careful because if the water gets into your engine, that's another wahala. We don't want that cost. You can't even afford it. That's the situation. So how did you get home last night? How did you make it home? Did you use public transport? Did you use a ride-hailing service? Was it trotro? Were you driving? Did you use a train? Because a few people sometime in the day would have access to that. Did you experience flooding in your area, your neighborhood? Share with us on social media. JoyNews on Facebook. Of course, you can drop your messages on the live feed as well. Let us know how exactly things went for you. But for now, we're joined by senior forecaster at the Ghana Meteorological Agency. Yeah, that word is a bit of a mouthful. Joshua Asamoah. People would often take it, go safe, and say GMET. And I don't know. Joshua, a very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
I think you'd have to unmute.
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Okay, then please speak up a little bit for me.
Okay.
All right.
I hope it's fine.
That's much better. Now, we've had some interactions with you, I mean, over the last few months or so. You've given us a picture, but yesterday's zone took us by a bit of a surprise. I saw the report that supposedly rain was expected, but how early did you put this report out yesterday?
Okay, so there was actually a report at 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
That indicated that there's going to be rain over more areas in southern Ghana later in the day. That's from the afternoon into the evening. But more updates came around 11 a.m. when we updated the morning forecast, indicated that there was a rainstorm that was tracking into the country to affect more areas in Ghana. So by 11 a.m., more areas in Ghana were predicted to get some rainfall conditions.
Now, looking at the report you put out, what was going to be the extent of the rain, around when, the span, and all of that? Because I had seen the report, I had actually not done a thorough reflection on it, but then all of a sudden in the evening, I was caught somewhere, and trust me, I got into my car quickly, but when I arrived home, getting out, between getting home and opening the gate and getting to, the building proper. Hey, the way it whipped me, the bashing was serious. It caught many unawares. That is what I noticed yesterday. What was going to be what was the expectation in terms of how ferocious the rain would be, how many hours, how long, and all of that? What was the expectation? And did it match what was projected?
Yes, it actually did. We expected that it would last for most of the late afternoon hours into the evening. So it was actually a rainfall that was expected to last for some longer hours. The intensity was actually felt mostly in the Volta and in the eastern regions. So even though we are complaining in the Greater Accra, if you move into the eastern and then the Volta regions, you would realize that the intensity is quite higher than what we experienced in the coastal portions of Ghana. So we're expecting this thing to really last for some time, and that's exactly what happened.
So a lot of people yesterday, there were images posted like we would usually have the rain just for after a short while. Flooding was happening. Some people were stranded. Others were trying to get home, and it wasn't that easy to do so. Are you saying that the intensity as well was projected, that we expected it to be this intense? Because I realized yesterday, apart from the traffic and everything, a lot of people were basically caught pants down. People reached out to me saying their buildings, there was flooding into their rooms and all of that. What was this expected as well, the intensity?
Well, the intensity was actually from the forecast, we were expecting varying intensity. So it wasn't going to be severe or moderate throughout. So
right.
You have light, you have moderate, and then heavy at a time. But due to the duration of the rainfall that we had, that's what made the accumulation of the rain over the period have that kind of devastating effect. So it's not more about the intensity, but then the duration of the rainfall that we had.
We're getting to the end of the month of April. We're practically at the end of it. And we know that nowadays, on the back of climate change, global warming, some of the weather patterns are not always what we would expect. The typical rainy season, the typical dry season, it sort of shifts and changes. What period are we in now, per your reports from what you gather? What period are we in now, would you say?
So we are in the rainy season. It actually started in March. We're still in the rainy season. But during the rainy season, there are periods that you can go without rainfall. That's a dry spell. So you can have even up to 10, 20 days of no rainfall during the rainfall season. That shouldn't take your mind off the fact that we are still in the rainy season. So any activity you take around this time, just be aware that from now till July, we're still in the major rainfall season for southern Ghana. And we'll get some short break before the minor rainfall season sets in September, October, and then November.
I posed that question because, yes, the rains have been with us. I've noticed a certain trend. I got beaten by the rain not some weeks back. In fact, it was hilarious for me because I just left the studio, went to a place about 2 minutes away from my workplace to make a purchase. And it started. It broke my umbrella, and of course, I got beaten again. The ferocity, the intensity, and sometimes how unexpected it is. We're in the season, but you would realize that for a lot of the time, you have a lot of sunshine. In fact, the sun comes out a lot nowadays. It's pretty hot. And then all of a sudden, on some days, there's just havoc. The rain just pours. That's why I'm asking, because it's not your typical rainy season like we would have yesteryear. So what then can we expect, let's say, in this coming weekend, I should say, and in the coming week? What can we look forward to in terms of rain patterns?
Okay, well, actually, for the major rainfall season, because it starts somewhere in March, and March is the hottest month in the year, this is the kind of weather that we see around that time. You see a lot of thunder, windy conditions, and some heavy rainfall happening around this time, because the sun is actually the primary source of energy for the weather activities that we get here. So when you're getting lots of sunshine, it's actually an indication that if all the other conditions that lead to cloud formation are there, then there's a possibility that you'll be getting rainfall. So the kind of rainfall we get around this time is a convective kind of rainfall, unlike when we get into the monsoon period, where you can have clouds the whole day, can even be raining throughout the day, but you not see sun or hear lightning and thunder or see lightning flashes. So this is actually typical for the major rainfall season, the kind of weather we are seeing now. It could be sunny for the whole day, and then later in the afternoon, we'll just trigger some cloud formation and then eventual precipitation. We should expect these kinds of activities from now. So July, before we go into the break, and then the minor rainfall season sets in. But in August, it will basically be cloudy for most parts of the day, some drizzle, slight rain during the day, but not as what we are seeing at this particular point in time.
From now to July, you said?
Yes, the major rainfall season is expected to last until about July.
It's going to be good for the farming community, among others. And of course, we need the rainfall. But when it catches you like this, it's not funny at all.
Not entirely the case. For agricultural purposes, you need the rain for a number of times.
Yeah, some specific months.
Yeah. So for us in the eastern coast of Ghana, we tend to get the highest number of heavy rainfall within the season, but we don't get the highest rainfall days within the season. So if you move into the eastern, the Ashanti, the western regions, the forest zone, it rains almost every day there. But for us in the Volta, that's the coastal part of the Volta region into the Greater Accra region, we don't get the rains frequently. But the few occasions that it rains, the intensity tends to be quite high.
Yeah.
That is not too good for agricultural purposes. Yeah, because you get all the rains in a day, then after some time evaporation happens, everything is gone. Then you don't get the rainfall for a number of days again, so it's not good for you. Yeah, but for people in the forest areas, because it rains almost every day, the intensity does not really matter because of the frequency. It's good for agric purposes.
So, of course, whether you're farming groundnut or yam or rice paddies require a lot of water. Even there, you would need some regulation, natural regulation, but on the back of our erratic weather patterns or rainfall patterns recently, that is not so easy to gauge. So, of course, a lot of them have to use extra means of irrigation and all of that. In terms of sunshine, what can we expect? We've seen pretty hot periods in recent days and weeks. What can we expect on that level?
All right. So from March, April, May, going into about June, we should expect these very high temperatures. It will continue until that time. But July going into August, it will start getting a bit lower. So we'll be getting colder temperatures around July into August. And then I'm sure people will actually be complaining around August when the temperatures get quite cool and then they feel like it's not normal. Last year we were getting similar conditions and people were complaining a lot. So we should endure for now. The hot conditions will continue. But from July going into August, we'll be getting some colder conditions for most parts of the country.
We all remember some of the disasters that have taken place in this country on the back of flooding. I mean, I don't have to remind everybody. And in the month of May, we have that recollection about what happened. But within this period, already people are saying the rains have been pretty fierce. Which period do you forecast is going to be the fiercest when it comes to raining?
In recent years, we've realized that the rainfall season and then the duration of rainfall and even the frequency of the rains tend to be higher around the minor rainfall season than the major rainfall season. So September, October, November tends to give us more rain for southern Ghana than what we are seeing in the major rainfall season. Just that the duration of the season is a bit shorter. September, October, November or start season for most parts of the south. And so if we should go by that, then it means the possibility of us getting these flood issues will be higher during the minor rainfall season than the major rainfall season. But it still does not take away the fact that we still get some heavy rains during the major rainfall season. And because planning and our activities are not so well, especially for us in the Greater Accra, any amount of rainfall has a tendency of causing some flood issues in Accra. And so we should be wary of flood anytime there's a possibility of rainfall.
In other words, yes, getting to the tail end of the year, practically in the last quarter, that's when, if you look at generally what has been happening, we should look at more fierce rain, or the fiercest rain, so to speak, though that spell will be shorter and this one is longer. And again, I suppose what you're saying is we shouldn't be deceived. Just because you see the day start brightly does not mean it's going to end that way. Like I learned yesterday, I got a beating, a whipping from the rain. But to maybe to cap off the conversation then, what would you leave us with by way of what we have to do in these times to stay safe and where should we go, for example? There are some people who would say, oh, I want to get these daily updates and all of that. There are all these apps on Android and iOS and all of that. But what will be your final words to us in that regard and how people can stay safe?
All right. So we are in the season. Even as much as we are not getting the frequent rains, especially for Greater Accra region, we should still put our things in order. We have been saying this all the time. You shouldn't wait for the government to come and dissolve the gutters in front of your houses. And then we should try at least make a way for the groundwater to flow freely so that it doesn't overflow into our homes and cause flooding issues in our homes. But if you want to get weather information, you can always visit our social media platforms. So we are on Facebook, Ghana Meteorological Agency, GMET. And then on Twitter, it's at Ghana Met on Twitter. It's quite active. We update regularly, so you get all the updates as it happens and know where there's a possibility of rainfall. We also now use Instagram as well, Ghana Meteorological Agency. You get the information there. And if you want to also get it on WhatsApp, you can just send us a WhatsApp message on our office number 0302 777 172. We'll add you to our WhatsApp platform and then be updating you as and when necessary. But for people who live within Greater Accra region, I'd advise that you download the My Flood Risk Accra app.
My Flood Risk Accra. Okay, yes. What does that app do? What does it show?
What it does is that for now it was a pilot case, and so we're just using some flood-prone areas in Greater Accra. So just the Accra Metro, Ga East, and then Ga West areas. That's where we are modeling for now. And so it will be able to tell you the water level within these areas, whether there's possibility of flooding within the area. You get to know all of that. But if you don't live within these areas and you stay outside of the area that we're talking about, you still can use the app because there's a push notification like what WhatsApp does. Yesterday, we sent a notification that areas in Greater Accra should be expecting rainfall of varying intensity through the app. So you just get it as a text message on your phone indicating that there's rainfall. Once you get the message, you can go into the app and know the specific areas where we are modeling and see how the water will rise within these areas. And when there's a possibility of flooding too, we use that as well to send notification. Yesterday, we still did the same thing, sent a notification that there's a possibility of flooding within the Greater Accra region. So if you live within Greater Accra, even if you don't live here and you one way or the other find your way in Greater Accra, you want to download the app and get updated with information within the Greater Accra region in terms of rain and then flood.
Josh, just stay with me for a little longer, for a while longer. We want to engage our viewers on what exactly transpired yesterday and what they are looking forward to, what their expectations are. Some of them will have questions for you. So if you don't mind, just stay with me as we activate the phone lines. 0302 211-691. We're doing this for good reason. You may have concerns that I am not the expert, but he is. So just call in if you have any now. Pick up your phone, give us a call, pose those questions, pass those comments. Let's know what your neighborhood was like yesterday when the rains poured. And let's have a discussion, basically, moving into the next few days and weeks. Like he said, up to July, we're going to see pockets of this every now and then. So call that number, 0302 211 0302211 691. I recall, Joshua, with angst, how years ago there was a Canadian who was betting every year that Accra would flood. I see you smiling. And he was winning. So the company had to stop that bet because I'm sure you know that if he had continued, even to today, he would still be winning. It's such a sad situation. But before we get into that, before I take your thoughts on that, we have Christian on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Fred.
I'd appreciate it if you could speak up for me. I can't hear you too well. Chris.
Okay, I'm Chris.
Where are you calling from, Chris?
Okay, sorry for that. I'm calling from Tamawest constituency, Spinters.
Chris, stop listening to yourself on the TV. Just focus on the phone. That's why you are delaying. Don't listen. Mute the TV and just talk to me on phone, okay?
Okay, so my question to the weather experts is, I know periodically they've been having a summit or their findings throughout to how the weather is and the development afterwards. We want to know if after that they are connecting with the government, because if they do a finding and it doesn't go out to the government, for the government to also plan according to development. I want to know if they have anything of that sort, and if there is, how effective is it happening, how is it affecting society?
Your call has been put on hold.
He's saying basically that, you know, with all of these things that you come up with, your research among others and the systems you use, do you make them available to government so that they can also make projections on the back of them? I have a bit of an answer to that, but I'll leave you to give the answer.
Actually, there are institutions that are responsible to take out some activities with regards to these things. NADMO is one of them, and we collaborate so well with NADMO. Any information that goes out to the public also goes out to NADMO. We actually work together with NADMO to develop the impact-based forecast, where we don't just tell you the hazard that is going to happen, whether it's going to rain or anything like that, but we tell you the impact that the hazard will have over the area. And so they really understand that information, and then they use it quite well to trigger their emergency operations within Ghana. And not just them, there's the Hydrological Authority, who also are in charge of the water levels and then the drain systems and all of that. So once we give them that information, they can also use that to predict the possibility of flooding within some areas based on the capacity of the area and then the amount of rainfall that we are expecting. So it's not just these two, there are other institutions that we collaborate with. The forecast does not stay in the office, it goes out to all the people who need it.
All right, all those in the chain. Let's go to Philip now. Hello, Philip.
Yes, please.
Good morning. Please speak up for me. Where are you calling from, Philip?
Please, I'm calling from Adukrum.
From where?
Adukrum.
Adukrum? Oh, okay. Yes. Good. What are your thoughts for us? Was there rain? Was there heavy rain in Adukrum yesterday?
Yesterday.
Wow.
I have a concern about this.
I don't know why I'm struggling to hear you guys. I think it may be something from our end. Go ahead.
I have a concern about this rain. I want to ask the expert, what are the procedures, or what are the instruments kept aside to keep this water? And I've seen that people are building to block the water channels, and nothing is done. What is government input about this? And what are they doing to curb this situation of flood? There are many places that are living on the sea. They don't experience this flood. But we Ghanaians, the government that is being, the power has been given to people build on water channel. And water is said that you block its way. So what is government doing? And what is the role of the whole land commission? There's something that they should do. So what are they doing?
Okay, Philip, interesting points. He says in Edukrum as well, it was heavy over there. And I hear in different parts of the country. What was the scope, though, Joshua? Yesterday, where were you expecting from the southern to the northern belt and the central belt? Where were you expecting these rains to pour and be heaviest?
Actually, the rain affected most parts of Ghana. The northern portions had their share, but for the intensity, it was higher for southern Ghana than the northern portions. And in southern Ghana, around the Volta, eastern regions, that's where we had the highest rainfall. Over 100 millimeters of rain recorded around Ikuapem, Ekropon areas. Borehole areas had around 90, but moving towards the coast, it was around 40, 60 millimeters. Northern Ghana, just around 15, 20 millimeters, up to about 30 millimeters. So the intensity was higher in southern Ghana than the northern sector, but more areas experienced rainfall yesterday.
Right. All right. It appears to have covered, quite some swathes of areas. But let's get into let's get to the call lines once more. Our final caller is Bismarck. Hello, Bismarck.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I hope you're well.
Everything is fine. My concern is about school children.
Before you go on, where are you? Where are you calling from?
Mataheko.
Mataheko. Did it rain? Of course, it poured there yesterday as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. What was the experience like before you get into your submission?
It's very cut and dry. It was very bad.
It was very bad.
Our place is not well developed, so it's not flood-prone area yet.
I see. All right. Please go ahead with your comments.
My concern is there any way you can live with the medical service so that at least when the rain is coming, school students can be aware so that they will know either to set off from school or to stay back. For me personally, I don't have a problem. My children stay 400 meters away from home, so I don't think it's a challenge for me. But I do get concerned when it rains like this and schools are closed, how school students are going to get home. That is my only concern.
You're talking about students, right?
Yeah, school children, the primary, lower primary, lower primary. Yes.
Right. And that's a very important point he makes. Of course, I guess more of us, parents especially, would have to get these apps and get that other one you spoke about. What did you mention again, Joshua? You mentioned something. Is it flood something?
Yes. I said
my flood risk Accra.
Let me note that down, and hopefully we can project it as well. So my flood risk Accra.
Yeah.
Is that an app?
Yes, an app.
An app?
Both, yes, on Play Store and then App Store. You can get that.
Right, my flood risk Accra. Let's all download this right after this conversation. I'll be downloading it myself because yesterday, now that he mentioned students, it even escaped me. I saw this father and he said he was called Nathaniel, that he watches the AM show. I had got in my car and they were walking along the road, he and this little boy, and the way the rain was beating them, I just said, hey, get in. And they were so grateful. It wasn't too far away. They were actually using my route, but I felt so bad. The way, maybe the elderly man could have, but the child, and it was just beating them like that. So parents, I think that's something you can do as well, so that you can also know what is happening, and even for everybody else, know when to go out and when to stay put. So that's the final call we've taken. Before you take leave of us, I was going to ask of any final comments you have, Joshua.
Okay, I think let me just start from where you just ended. We should be quite worried when we see clouds gathering or when it's pouring already. We should be worried and not really be interested in getting home so quick and want to be walking in running water. It's very dangerous.
And just to say this, yesterday I noticed after a short period, it was practically difficult to drive. My windscreen wiper was moving at the highest, and yet I had to be very cautious because it was raining so hard. You know, sometimes it rains so hard that even the wiper is not wiping.
Yeah, so at least the best thing you can do is get a shelter, wait for everything to cease, and then you can go to wherever you want to go to. Or if you get information ahead of time, then you take actions, get to your home before the event starts. But once you are seeing the conditions, it's best that you stay where you are if it's safe and wait for everything to end before you go out. So like I was saying earlier, we should just keep on getting the information, be very interested in weather. Most of the time, what we've realized is that when you send the weather, people are not really interested. Once they see the atmosphere changing, they will now be revisiting the information that was sent hours ago, and it would have been too late by then. So we should be very interested in what happens before you go out. Just get to know how the weather will be like and know how you plan your day accordingly.
Don't think that just because the morning is looking sunny, in fact, that could be a warning signal. It shines like that, before you know, next thing, it's pelting rain. Joshua Asamoah is a senior forecaster with the Ghana Meteorological Agency. Joshua, thank you so much for your time this morning. We're grateful, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So from there, we're going to take a breather and we'll return with a lot more content on the AM show. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. Before we get into our next conversation, of course, we're talking about this one where some civil society organizations have petitioned the IMF on expenditure cuts in Ghana's basic educational sector. It's dated Thursday, yesterday, and on Thursday, April the 27th, 2023, at 19 hours GMT, EduWatch and representatives of over 600 civil society organizations, per the statement, working to promote access to quality basic education and social protection in Ghana, submitted a petition to the board of the International Monetary Fund. Why? Here's why. The petition calls on the IMF board to remove brutal expenditure cuts in Ghana's basic educational sector, arising from Ghana's bid to meet conditionalities for its extended credit facility application. Of course, that has to do with the IMF. And that's why it's ended up at their desk. Including or enclosed copy of petition submitted to the IMF board. And that's how the statement ended by Africa Education Watch. So they have submitted that petition together with 600 representatives of over 600 civil society organizations working to promote access to quality basic education and social protection in Ghana. They are simply saying the IMF, in granting us a program, should deal with that situation because there have been brutal expenditure cuts in Ghana's basic educational sector arising from the extended credit facility that we are pushing forward. And so that is the latest as far as that development is concerned. We'll be engaging our guests on this all-important matter to find out what exactly Africa Education Watch can share with us on that specific beat. We'll be getting to our guests shortly. So we have John Nko, Country Director, Action Aid Ghana. He also joins the conversation. We have Bernice Jechi, National Coordinator of the GNECC. She also joins the conversation. Lady, gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Benjamin Akakpo. How are you doing? And good morning to your very cherished listeners. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It's a pleasure having you. I love the way you mentioned my full name. Blurted it out like that. Anyway, pleasure to have you. We've seen the statement by Africa Education Watch, but it shows that a lot of you, over 600 of these civil society organizations focusing on education, actually have an interest in there. Just let me start with you, John. Walk me through why you actually came on board for this statement to be put out. What exactly is the basis for this?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben, once again. If you have taken a very careful study of our press statement,
you would have realized that it's a group of civil society organizations that are working on this. And the reason why we are setting out on this pathway is basically to call on the IMF and, if you like, the Bretton Woods institution in considering Ghana's bailout to remain to their promise of not ensuring that, government social protection programs are scathed from or face cuts from this expenditure rationalization, which is occasioned by the comprehensive debt restructuring program of government as one of the issues, and the fact that we need to consider a lot of expenditure cuts in order to be seen meeting some of the benchmarks, or if you like, the conditionalities required to ensure that we are reverting to the path of sustainability, or financial sustainability. In this regard, our emphasis has been that although Ghana aims at restoring macroeconomic stability and thus sustainability, there is the increasing need to protect the vulnerable in this regard. And for example, if you look at our statement, we are focusing on education, and we realize that if this is not done and measuring on so far what government has submitted in terms of the medium-term expenditure framework to the IMF and also our maiden budget, it does suggest that there will be some forms of cuts, and we are calling on the IMF board to ensure that those cuts are reviewed and brought in line with, for example, if you like, the UNESCO and the GPA education framework benchmarks that has occasioned that countries that are working to enhance educational development in their countries need to be seen spending about 15% of their budget allocation to the education sector, and so on and so forth. That is the reason why we are calling on the key stakeholders, including government, to reconsider the proposals that are being submitted to ensure that, for example, the Ghana School Feeding Program is not so much affected, capital expenditure in the education sector is not so much affected, and you may even be more well informed about the fact that there's in the media some demonstrations from the Ghana School Feeding Program contractors who are providing food for school children. And that means that we need to be seen engaged in prudent expenditure, prioritizing key focus areas in our educational governance, and for that matter, in the provision of gender-responsive public services such as education, for which the Ghana School Feeding Program is a critical part.
For you, Bernice Mprejechi, you are National Coordinator for the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. What key issues got you on board as far as this petition is concerned?
All right, thank you very much, Ben.
And my apologies if I've been murdering your name.
The name is Mprejechi.
Mprejechi. I knew there was something somewhere. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and good morning to you, John. I hope you are doing well.
John, she's addressing you. She's asking whether you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Bernice, and greetings to your team. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so Ben, one of our major concerns this year is to see some improvements in our basic education, because everything about our basic education now, it is not, in fact, doing well. It is not doing well at all. Looking through to infrastructure, to capitation grants, the National Standardized Test, School Feeding Program, absence of debt, it is just too much for the basic education to bear in our country now as we speak. So being on board on this issue is that the promises that were made by our president who is the GPE champion, he is supposed to encourage other African countries to commit enough funds into their education. Then how come every part of our basic school is in crisis? Children will go to school, they don't have desks to sit on. School feeding program is not going well. Capitation grant is not going. Already the amount is very minimal, very small, inadequate or insufficient, and yet it is not also released on time. So these are some of the things we are looking at as a coalition to petition the IMF to consider the decisions they've made, which may affect the basic education through from now to 2025. So looking at the 12% of the national budget allocated to education for 2023, 11% project expenditure allocation to education in 2024 to 2025, and then the 3% GDP allocation to education in 2023. So these are some of the things that we want the IMF board to look at, consider, so that we can have enough funding for our basic schools. If we are not able to build the foundation well, how do we move on to the latter? It is a major concern to us. So it is one of the reasons why we are all joining this campaign to make sure that our basic schools are well resourced. Thank you.
Interesting points you make there. For you, John, what are going to be the focal areas? She has made mention of the school feeding program, which in itself is in turmoil. In recent times, they've embarked on some industrial action, the capitation grants, among others. What for you are the crucial areas where these expenditure cuts are biting the hardest?
Yeah, so I think that to remain within the context of, our statement, we are looking a lot more in terms of the educational sector. And so to add to what Bernice has so eloquently discussed, one of the critical areas that needs a lot more focus has to do with educational infrastructure. So, for example, as we speak today, we have over 5,400 schools that continue to exist under trees. And so what that means is that there's the increasing need for a lot more educational investment, or if like capital investment in education. You would also realize that as part of the expenditure rationalization, even before now, government capped, for example, the GET fund. And so what that meant was that a certain proportion of the resources was to go into capital expenditure, with a lot more, I don't want to say diverted, but rechanneled towards other sectors of the economy. And so what that meant was that the outflow of resources that would have gone directly into the educational sector, and for that matter, to increase investment in terms of capital expenditure, has been reduced. If you further even look at what government did, by December 2022, a government secured a parliamentary amendment of the Act 974 to further tighten its cap action on the GET fund. So what that meant was that it was further reduced from 25% in terms of the capping to 17.5% of receivables. So what that meant was that, given our current economic situation, government is looking a lot more in terms of how it can ring-fence resources to support or do what we call budget support. And so the capital expenditure is struggling. If you go further to look at even teacher deployment, there are some fundamental challenges there, because COVID-19 revealed onto us some of the critical challenges in terms of the deficits, in terms of staffing. And what that means is that government should be seen to have a systematic progressive plan towards enhancing educational expenditure. Now, as we speak, organized labor is busy organizing to engage government on their resources. All that goes into the educational critical expenditure, such as compensation. And there's the need for government to increasingly look at that. In addition to what I've said, there is also a critical group or if you like, stakeholder in the Ghana educational system that we call out of school. And statistics does point to the fact that about 9% of the critical age of 4 to 18 have never stepped foot in school. And so what that means is that although we have made significant progress and advancement in terms of child enrollment in our schools, the point we are making is that there's still some work to be done, because the Ghana Statistical Service in the 2021 census or so pointed to the fact that these numbers does exist, and it's concerning if government is going to be able to fully implement the educational strategic plan. There's the need for government to also, cover this critical area of our work. Then, of course, we are talking about educational resource in terms of funding for teaching and learning materials that go hand in hand with quality education, and ensuring that the children that are at the basic school are given, not only increased access, but we are also focusing more in teacher training, teacher refreshment, teacher capacity building, and ensuring that there is an enabling infrastructure. Although we are facing some form of financial challenges, but the educational sector, which government itself agrees as a critical linchpin in our development process or trajectory, needs to also be focused on as a critical prioritized area. And it is in this regard that we are calling the IMF to critically reflect on some of the cuts and stay to its promise not to do anything untoward in terms of these critical social services in a way that will ensure that the future of this country is not shortchanged, but we are focusing a lot more in educational development, child development, and therefore creating more progressively for the future a well-resourced critical manpower that will drive the engine of national development and reconstruction.
For you, Bernice, what action do you want to see taken on this in the immediate term? I mean, you've bypassed government because obviously it would appear that you've not got the returns expected from establishment, and you've gone to the IMF. Do you think this is going to have any impact on government's planning moving forward?
Yes, thank you. It should have some effect, because these are issues that we've been talking about over and over again. Now, looking at school feeding caterers on strike now, those issues have come up. We have spoken, we had the engagement with government. They said they were going to pay and all that, but it has still not happened. So what we are asking for now is that we want the IMF to look at us so that the government would also take into consideration its plan and then its budgeting to ensure that to get this thing done. We want a review. We want the IMF to review the 2023 budget to reflect a minimum of 16% national budgetary allocation and 4% to GDP to education. We also want them to restore the 40% cut in the basic education budget for goods and services. And then within the anticipated increase, make specific allocation for basic school infrastructure development. We are talking about the infrastructure development because, like John was saying, we still have some schools under trees, and apart from the infrastructure, there are a lot of children packed in one classroom. And how can a teacher deliver quality education? If you look at children who graduate from the primary school, about a quarter of them are not able to read or be very efficient in English and mathematics because of the quality of education. We have developed new curriculum over 3 years, and we don't have enough textbooks for children to use to learn or teachers to teach. What kind of education outcome are we looking for at the basic level? So within the anticipated increase, we want a specific allocation for basic education infrastructure development. And we also want them to review the medium-term expenditure framework of the education sector to reflect the minimum of 16% national budgetary allocation and the 4% to GDP. and also reverse projected medium-term expenditure cuts, the Ghana School Feeding Program, and increase allocation in line with increasing inflation trends that is happening in our country now. Look at the amount of money that is given to each child as a school feeding, and look at how much food is costing on the market these days. What magic are these caterers supposed to perform to feed the children? Even with that, they are managing. How come the funds are also not going as promised? The minimum one, the very little one that has been given, that have been managed, is also not paid. Does it mean that we cannot fund our pro-poor policies in the education sector? These are serious issues that we want it addressed. And we are very sure that the government and IMF can plan accordingly to get those issues addressed. Thank you.
Right before I let go of the two of you, I'd just like to find out, it is government that is dealing at that level with the International Monetary Fund. You have petitioned the board of the fund to the end that you're hoping they will take action and help stem the tide of the expenditure cuts we're seeing on the back of an IMF program, should we get it. How hopeful are you? And this question is to both of you. That's how we'll wrap the conversation. How hopeful are you of the IMF's cooperation? They can honestly decide to ignore you. Bernice, let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, Bernice. Go ahead, Bernice.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Yes, they can decide to ignore us, but we are also hopeful that something can be done. And then we are pleading that it shouldn't be ignored, especially with regards to our foundational learning. And then once the analysis shows that something can be done, we are pleading with them, and then the government, both, that it should not be ignored. Something really needs to be done.
Tell me, what could be the consequences if they choose, maybe they say, well, these are pertinent issues you're bringing up, but we simply can't, in delivering this program, some cuts must apply, like we've seen, structural adjustment in the 80s, among others. And it may not be necessarily that they ignore it, but maybe it's not realistic in the program they are granting us. What could be the consequences of that on basic education? That's just it.
Yes. So I think we have said enough the consequences that may come. We are going to produce very poor learning outcomes in our country. And 2030 is just here with us. We are not going to meet the SDG part of education. We are not going to miss it. And it has serious implications on our education system and every aspect of our economy, because education is very, very key. It is the only way that we can take away poverty in our country, social vices coming up, youth, violence, and all that. So if these things will be ignored, then we should be ready to face the consequences of poor learning outcomes, getting more youth who are out of school, armed robbery, increase in social vices, and a lot more. So these are the reasons why we want everyone to come on board, very considerate, and analyze the situation well, so that something can be done about this deficit.
Bernice, thank you so much for joining the conversation this morning. We're immensely grateful for your time. Let me wrap with John. So the same set of questions to you. What happens if the IMF says, maybe a good proposal, but we simply can't toe that line? What then happens, and what would be the consequences on the educational sector at the basic level? John.
Thank you very much, Ben. Moving forward, it is important to also underscore the point that, the civil society organizations have been engaging government in this discussion. And so this latest action is meant to broaden the level of stakeholders around the table in the Ghana IMF bailout process. And so the discussion is ongoing. Now, what happens should government IMF not listening? Or you say, yes, this is fine, but we would move on. Like Bernice said, the challenge is enormous. What it does mean is that we will not be meeting some of the SDGs, and that will have consequences, in terms of Ghana's educational development. And so is it not worrying that in terms of the school child performance at the basic education level, the standard testing that was carried out, just a little over a quarter met the minimum standards in mathematics and English? What that means is that government and all stakeholders, including you and I, would have enormous challenges to face. Then also, in terms of feeding of the child at school or school children at school, you have already seen what is happening, as far as the food contractors under the Ghana School Feeding Program is concerned. What that means is that government need to be seen at least meeting some of these recommendations, the proposals, in a way that will also create some form of sanity in our governance system to ensure that all stakeholders understand. Because you need to also remember that this is a homegrown, the IMF within the bailout process is calling for homegrown solutions, a homegrown program. And therefore, it is important that critical stakeholders come together to understand and make strategic decisions. And so this process is geared towards supporting government, building consensus, and ensuring that we are agreeing on homegrown solutions that everyone will subscribe to, if not everyone, majority of Ghanaians will subscribe to. And then we are going to continuously have a lot more discussion around even ring-fencing some of these discretionary expenditures and see what we can cut more rather than cutting down on the critical social protection programs. And we know government is listening. We know that the IMF is listening because the IMF board members also include critical members from the GPE who under whose watch we all agreed upon the minimum benchmarks on financing educational development. And therefore, we believe they will take this petition and our letter so seriously. And so that at the end of the day, we would all celebrate because there are no victors and losers in this arrangement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That ties into a story I'm looking at here in the Daily Analyst. A direct finance minister to release funds to pay caterers, Otiko Jaba tells Kofu Ado, a former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. But that is it with this latest petition to the IMF by Africa Education Watch, together with over 600 civil society organizations who focus on education. Those who joined us for the conversation, John Unko, Country Director, ActionAid Ghana, and Bernice Imperi Jechi, National Coordinator of the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. When we return on the AM show, we're actually going to be contemplating the New Age CEO Summit, which comes off tomorrow. And of course, we'll be taking your calls, among others. But before we do that, I'm going to take a sip of water. We know water is life. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And they have the perfect sizes for everybody, from the children right up to the adult. 330 and 500 ml bottles, 750 ml if that's what you're looking for. And if you're a big drinker, 1.5 liters. If you're thinking of something for your office or home, they have 19-liter jar bottles, which are ideal for offices and homes. So all you must do now is drink Awake purified drinking water wherever you go. So choose a bottle of Awake. Remember, for every bottle you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center for those who cannot afford treatment. It's another quality product by Caterer Company Limited. If you'd like to purchase in bulk, this is the number to call: 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. Stay with us on the AM show. We'll be right back.
Hi there. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. I am Bernice Abubede Lansah. Well, Victor Imilatobi is a financial fitness coach, international business strategist, thought leader, and disruptor. He's the president of Wealth Nation, and it's a smart community of well-informed entrepreneurs and leaders. He plays to the Wealth Protocol and the New Age CEOs Conference annually. I've also got Bigger Sam. He's CEO of 7 Figure Boss Pro. And this morning they're here to have a conversation about a plan they have, a passion for helping African businesses grow. And Bigger Sam is to my immediate left, and then Victor. I hope I got your surname right.
You did an amazing job.
Okay. I do well with Nigerian names.
My lectures was beautiful too.
All right, so let's start on the basis for this, Victor. What is the passion for African businesses?
Okay, I've never had to say this on air before, but I'll say somebody triggered it. Vusi.
Okay.
Yeah, so Vusi took the front run, and he's doing all these VC fund, trying to empower and change the African mindset. And back in Nigeria, basically what I was doing was taking a lower echelon, trying to get people off the street by providing them with multiple skills. Then at a point I paused and I asked myself the same question Vusi kept throwing out every time. He said, what's the idea behind this concept of small businesses? Don't you think it's just killing us? And I thought about it. Then I went to the statistics about the number of businesses that die every year from the businesses that emerge. Okay, then I started asking myself, why did this business die? Okay, then I realized just exactly what Vusi was saying. A lot of businesses have no business starting small, especially African businesses. These businesses need quite a large scale of cooperation within the same bodies and entities that empower organizations that they don't even know that they are empowering. Okay, so the problems we face with businesses in Africa fall on majorly about 4 categories. Number 1, you have financing, which is the off-taking, the seed capitals. You have structural issues because less and less people are even starting to put that place in focus. Then you have the knowledge part of it very lacking, because if you meet an absolute entrepreneur that has the capacity to generate idea, do business, they lack literally the knowledge to even drive it to the books and the business plan. And if you jam one that has the capacity to do that, he's not ready for business.
Right.
You understand? Then you have the 4th one, which is the mentorship and inner cycle. Okay? So I thought about this. I said, okay, somebody's already on the front line. There's a little we can do, because as at 2 years ago, I had already trained about 253,000 persons on self-employable skills, like hands-on skills, catering, fashion, blockchain, foreign exchange.
And all these people are in Nigeria?
Nigeria, some of them in Cameroon. We did a little tune in Kumasi some 2 years ago. Then I started asking myself, okay, so who is going to fund these guys? Then I thought, okay, now we need to go to the next level. We need to start educating them, and we need to start building our own VCs, venture capital stages. And we need to start inculcating the people who are supposed to do business, who ended up in the job roles, and now they have the capital. Before we let them lose it to some foreign stocks, can they put in our VCs now? Okay. And can we also create a platform where they are trained? So the whole ecosystem is unique. You have grooming business people who are yet to take off. You have modeling existing businesses to build generation and legacy businesses. Then you have creating an investment platform for people who have money and confused about what to do.
All right, so this is just merging everybody together. But for you, Bigger Sam, what was the fuel? What was that trigger for you? He told us just what his trigger was. What was it for you?
Yeah, the trigger for me, thank you so much for that. Now, for me, looking at the entire Africa region, what is happening in Africa, now it came to my realization that we actually need to create this point of knowledge for every entrepreneur out there who are deeming fit to grow and strive in terms of building their values. Now, for me, growing up as a young guy who looked at the background of where we're coming from, I decided to create a model. That is why I was able to put together the 7-Figure Boss Pro company, where we've been able to train several people, or like I said, on hands-free, giving them reason for them to have skill that they could have in their hands, that they could be dependent, not relying on the government. Because government don't build nations. Entrepreneur build nations. Now, when the entrepreneur in that region are so strong, wealthy enough, they create development in that society to bring value to the region. So for me, as a CEO of 7-Figure Boss Pro, we've driven this to the streets and to different African regions to see how we can help them succeed. There are several CEOs out there who are struggling to build their business, to take it from where it is to the next level, how they can connect to the entire world, how they can fund, how they can be educated, how they can strategize to move from that point of knowledge to where they can bring it to profitability, not just for them, but for the people, for the entire world at large. So for me, we are looking at what we could do for the entire Ghana region. Why are we in Ghana? Why are we bringing this to this region now? We understand that the Ghana region, we have several friends of ours who we've seen the growth, the way they are moving. We need to work together, collaborate together, help them succeed in terms of giving them that understanding to strategize better, to create the thinking ability, that creative mind for them to look just beyond Ghana, how they will be able to get funding, how they will also add knowledge to themselves.
You think Ghanaian business people are too careful?
Yeah, yeah, of course. For me, for what I perceive, they are too careful. They are not willing to go just beyond some borders. So you could actually think big and do beyond just what you think. Don't localize it. Let's go global. Let's help you see a bigger picture.
I'll be coming to the point of your event this Saturday, but I'd just like for you to tell me what the challenges have been for you, because clearly you've seen a problem. He's just identified one. He thinks that a lot of local businesses here in Ghana don't want to step out of the region, of the boundaries, of the corners of this nation. What are the other things that you've seen as inhibiting African businesses? What is it that makes us want to, like you said, many of them have no business starting small, but what is that thing that makes us want to be modest and start, very little?
I think it's basically our environmental conditioning, okay? Because what's become life, and those life turn to reality based on what we see every day. And so when you come to Africa, basically, they've sold us, with due respect, a lie, if I'm disputing any mentor out there right now, that lie of, start small, then push it big. The problem is that the guy starts small, but he started the business for the wrong reason. He wants to feed. He's looking for a better way to keep his family afloat. But in the real business sense, you can start small, but think big. And in thinking big is going to show in all the actions you take. And so the biggest challenge we have is that nobody, I don't know, maybe if you are, you have to come out right now, is creating a platform to help the small businesses explode. And the platform is not money. The platform is knowledge, education, mentorship. I schooled in Florida. One of the things you notice in the US is that for every billionaire that you know his name, there is a mandate of them to show up about 2 to 3 times in what is called like a hub, like a mentorship sector, to teach people what they've already learned. Can you tell me how many times your billionaires in Ghana in the last 3 years have shown up somewhere for free to teach people how they built their business? It's difficult. Even if you get them on an interview, you just get a sketchy truth. You don't get the real deal. Nobody wants to tell anybody, I'm scared as you are. But I broke through because I saw where I was going. Now, I can't even sit down here and begin to judge Ghanaians and say, they are too scared and all that. It's their environmental conditioning. The fastest way to break out is by global association. Okay? What my brothers in Nigeria doing? What my brothers in South Africa doing? Why is this guy moving like this? So they said, you're the 10th idea of the 9 faculties you're moving with. So you can become faster by association. So what we're doing here right now is not just about Ghana. In fact, as of yesterday, I had the privilege to meet some people I can't even mention on air. We're already planning a Pan-African thing that happens once a year, where you get about 200 delegates from the guys who have emerged from the different platforms we've been training and speaking on all over Africa, to come together on one umbrella to share their experiences and see how it can interchange. There are a lot of things happening politically in the space of businesses, where you have supply chain issues, where you have funding issues and all that. And I want you to know something. It's similar almost everywhere in Africa. And guess what? Why did we call this the New Age CEOs Conference 1.0? New breeds, new ideas. Right now we sit on our phones, we're building empires. Okay, we don't need to open a room with 200 staffs to build a software anymore. It's happening faster than you can think. But there is something they're not showing you. There is an organogram, and there is a system that you have to go through. And if you think you're too smart for the system, all the guys who have been there are just going to be looking at you like this and waiting for you.
Waiting for you to fail. So Bigger Sam, what other challenge, apart from the thinking capacities or the socialization process, has made us what we are today as a people, as African entrepreneurs and business people?
Yeah, for me, there are several challenges out there. Now, personally, when I perceive that the environment we are, or that I was back then, is not conducive enough for me to break through, what did I do? I began to follow. I began to look out for mentors, leaders that I could read their books, I could identify with, attend several. Now, we are a product of several meetings. Now, identify with several people who has built value, who has results. Go to them. Mentorship is one thing that you can't hide it. You must get a mentor, because you can't do it on your own. So for me, when I identified that, I began to study, I began to read, because knowledge is good, but knowledge that is well capitalized on becomes profits. So the challenge is that a lot of people are having a restraint to want to go out there, because there is already a subconscious in their spirits, a belief system that they have that is holding them back. So if you let go that belief system that I can do mentality, you have to build it. If you build it and you stay on the positive lane, now that will form or shape your thinking, your drive to want to break out from where you are. Not until you have that in your spirit, in your subconsciousness, trust me, you'll be stagnant at that level. I call it work done, first applied, no distance covered. That's not good. So every Nigerian or every African or every African leader out there or CEO who has built a business, yes, of course there are challenges, but you must look out for the best solutions, how you can break out for the challenges. That's why the collaboration we are bringing in, of course, the leadership training and the events all around the entire space brings you to that point where you can seek knowledge and also seek funding and seek the basic reality that's to grow your business. So with this new age CEO that we are bringing into Ghana, of course, tomorrow, Saturday, now there's a whole lot that will be unfold. We have leaders, speakers from South Africa, we have from Nigeria, we have even from Ghana here, we have good minds in Ghana who have built themselves. So bringing all this together, it will help the younger CEOs, the younger people who are thinking, should I proceed or should I quit or should I move? Now they will see reality, how this guy or this lady was able to achieve this result. So if that is happening repeatedly, you will see that suddenly their mind and their business model will begin to form a new shape. And with this, of course, profitability will be obvious to the entire region.
Clearly, there's a lot to share based on what the two of you have said so far. So tell us more about the conference. When is it happening? Where is it happening? And how can people participate? Okay,
the New Age CEO Conference 1.0 Ghana happens to be a global 4th edition, because 3 has already happened. So this will be happening tomorrow. We call it the pre-event. The main event is yet to come. So the New Age CEO Conference 1.0 Ghana is happening tomorrow at the Airport View Hotel. And the time is going to be 9 a.m. Okay, so it's going to be like a 3-hour talk section. We'll have speakers and entrepreneurs from Ghana here who are going to be in that meeting tomorrow. I'm speaking from Nigeria, Big Sam from Nigeria. We have Prior from South Africa. and we have about 2 other entrepreneurs from South Africa coming in. So what the pre-event tomorrow is doing is preparing us for the bigger event, but this is it. If you want to be a pioneer, you want to be the first phase of the testimonial of what this produces, you don't want to miss that. And one of the fastest way you can secure a seat in that room, because we know the reservations that have been done so far, is keep to time. No Ghanaian time, please. No African time. 9 is 9.
Okay.
Okay. Airport View Hotel, 9 a.m. tomorrow, Saturday. It's happening. Okay.
So people can just walk in, or they need to make a reservation? Is it a ticketed event?
Right now, it's an open event. It's not ticketed. So once you get to the venue, not to stress your head, just ask where's the New Age CEOs conference happening, and feeling from just walking.
Okay.
Just walking. But
you don't pay anything?
No fee. So who are the category of people we're looking at right now?
Right.
So we need to specify that. So, hey guy, you have the idea, you want to launch that business, you're good to come in, but you had better be serious, okay? Don't be entitled. Drop the entitlement mentality at home. There's no VC waiting for you. Okay. You need to prove yourself. Okay. Then the second guy is you already have a business running, but you're at that point where you feel you're stuck now. You're no longer scaling. And there's a structural issue. No demons from your father's house. You understand? It's just a structural issue. And you need to stop complaining about what the government can do for you. Hey, you're breathing. So can you become the government from your territory? They need you. You know, then the third category of people I call them the board of directors. I call them the advisory board. They are the investor. So now, one of the biggest industries to invest in is the knowledge economy. The knowledge economy. Now, just imagine that you bring the knowledge economy and you bring individuals with real ideas and real business and put it together. So you were looking at making 7-figure in 1 year. I want you to go out of that quick gratification. I want you to look at building a legacy trust fund for your children by being part of what is going to be building the foundation of businesses all over the world from the standpoint where you are. So to say this, Africa is not limited. We just need somebody to put the first foot forward and bring everybody together.
Right. Okay, so he's spoken about who's invited. It's at 9 a.m. you said?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. sharp.
Yeah, it's going to be going on all day, but the first 3 hours is critical.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and this is open to, so it's almost like fastest fingers. Who can get there early? The early bird catches what? The worm, right?
Yes, and maybe I should even say this. The moment 100 people are sitting in that room, with due respect, you would be turned back and given a new date.
Okay.
Yes, I just needed to say that because, okay, why am I not coming to the 100 people in the room? It's a 200-seater hall. I know 100 has already been given. I will just have 100. So I know that if you make it within 40 minutes from 9 to 9:40, you would get a seat. But after that, you know what you're doing right now? After that, you are going to have to wait till the next day if we're going to be having a section the next day.
All right, okay. Yeah. All right. So the final words from you, Bigger Sam. So there are a lot of people watching us now. He's mentioned almost all the categories, people who are yet to start a business, people who have started a business, but they're having obstacles in their way, and people who have some money to invest in businesses but are looking for where to put in the money. So your final words, what are your thoughts? Why is this important? And what is the big vision? What is the goal? You've come all the way from Nigeria, bringing people all the way from South Africa. To what end? What are you hoping to achieve?
Yeah, thank you. Now the achievement, yeah, you know, there's nothing as good as when you see the African CEO, the African leader that has built an empire, giving value to so many people. Now, we want to be able to create like minds of millionaires, billionaires, that we be able to reach out to the grandchildren, the poor around you, surrounding. If everybody, let's say you're having like 70% of entrepreneurs of CEO in the region who are doing so well, that will bring in growth and development to your region. Because at that level, now you don't have to struggle to build your country. While you're waiting for the government, you are doing your own bit. While you're waiting for the government to help you do this, at that level of wealth, you should be able to add value. Don't wait for what the government will do for you. So the goal here is to bring the Africa region to that level where everybody now we experience wealth undiluted, and everyone will have reason to grow successfully in the entire career.
So, Victor, you have a quick announcement to make if people want to reserve, just in case they don't want to be surprised when they come in.
Yeah, they don't want to be surprised. So now, if you want to make a reservation for the event tomorrow, all you have to do is send your full name. So let me use my friend's name. Example, Nana Asamoah, okay, comma. How many of you are coming there? Put the number, I'm coming. I used to say this, if you're a husband and you're going to attend a life-changing event like this, you want to come with your confidant, your wife. If you're a wife, you want to come with your husband. You're dating, you want to come with your spouse. Then you're an executive, you want to come with your confidant. Who is that staff? He might not be the brightest, but he has the highest ideas. You want to come with him, okay? Religious leaders and all that open. So send your full name, the number of people coming with you, to the number and encapsulation. I need a mentor, okay, to 059 1120 520. I'm going to call it 2 more times. 059 1120 520. And for the very last time, 059 1120 520. Just send your full name, number of people coming, and the word, I need a mentor, and trust me, you have a seat reserved for you.
All right, so tomorrow it is 9 a.m. at the Airport View Hotel. Join Victor Emelatobi. Okay. Can I call you Toby for short?
Oh, Toby is beautiful.
All right, okay. And biggest Sam, as they build this platform, they say they want to help young African entrepreneurs. The big dream is to see young African millionaires, billionaires, changing the African story, changing the African narrative, and making Africa the continent that we all want it to be. Thank you once again, and all the best with your program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you for coming to Ghana as well. Well, it's now time for us to wrap up the show, but before I go, you're a wonderful father, uncle, brother, and friend. You have a heart of gold and a great spirit. Our desire is for God to continue to bless you and your wonderful soul and keep you safe. Blessed birthday to you, Uncle Robert Saka Akwe. You are of Latabia Okoshi and USA. This is from the Akwe family of Sempe and your lovely wife, Denise. Onukpa Ayalolu Ahisco. I'm sure you understand what all that means. Happy birthday to you. And another one last one. Okay, we're told this is from Raymond Labi, is it? Well, I don't have it here. But happy birthday to all of you, those of you who are celebrating your birthdays today. And thank you so much for making time to be with us every day of the week. We are super grateful. You have no idea. God willing, we are back again on Monday with another exciting edition of the AM show. But stay with us. This is JoyNews, your most credible news source. Up next is JoyNews Desk. Take care. Enjoy your weekend.